Welcome to part 9 of What If Kami sends Naruto back in time to fix his mistakes. Please remember to like and subscribe as it motivates me to upload more in the future, and as always link to the fanfiction is in the description. Date night with the flower girl. Ino was distressed. Any time Naruto was out of sight, she started feeling a black hole open in her heart and it sucked all of the joy out of life. She knew that Naruto had to get away from all of the negativity and she knew that him leaving was for the best, but that didn't make it any easier to stomach. That being said, Ino forced herself to look in a mirror and psyched herself up to be strong for her Naruto. The proud, boisterous, confident and sexy Ino Yamanaka would never be defeated by such feelings. She had 11 days, 8 hours and some change left to enjoy her time with her soulmate, and she was bound and determined to make the most of it. She had negotiated with Temari to have priority on Naruto, and she had informed her daddy that she wouldn't be sleeping at home until Naruto had left for his training trip. Inoichi had adamantly protested that, but Lena came to Ino's defense and told him that Ino was an adult, and he couldn't stop her. Ino left her father crying on his knees by the front door as Inoichi lamented about his baby girl. She had taken pride in being Naruto's girlfriend and main point of contact. She had gone to every training session, forced Asuma to stay behind for every bit of extra training, and the only time she was separated from Naruto was when she was doing missions around the village with Team 10. She was grateful to her team for being supportive of her and putting up with all of the extra time around the Senju compound. Truth be told, every member of Team 10 wanted to support Naruto as well, and they recognized that Naruto was getting the raw end of this deal. Ino was cleaning up from a day of the Kami damned rank missions, and she needed to run by her house to clean up and grab a sexy outfit to blow Naruto's mind. She had the date all planned and she was going to make her move tonight. After a long discussion with Temari, they both agreed that firsts didn't matter in between the two. The only thing that mattered was that Naruto was each of their firsts, at least this time around. They both blushed furiously as memories that didn't completely belong to them flashed in their mind. Ino hopped out of the shower and was wrapped in a towel when she saw Lena leaning against the door frame to her room. She continued on like nothing was unusual about her stepmother watching her get dressed and eventually started the conversation. "What's up, Lena?" Ino asked while pulling on a black thong and inspecting the matching lacy bra. Lena cocked an eyebrow when she saw the selection of clothes. "So, you are going to try and take the next step already? Are you sure that is what you want to do when he is about to leave?" Ino heard the genuine concern in her mother figures. Ah hell, she earned the mother title. Ino appreciated the concern in her mother's voice, but it was unnecessary. "Look, Mom, I love him and you want to give him something to remember while he's away?" Lena asked suggestively, not missing the first time that Ino called her mom. Ino sighed. "No, it's nothing so cheap and petty. I love that man and we are soulmates. I have zero doubts about that. I just want to make the next couple days as memorable as possible and bring us closer together." Lena shuffled uncomfortably and took a deep breath before responding. "Look, Ino, you are only 14. I know you are a kunoichi and you are an adult by law, but that doesn't stop your father or I from wanting to protect you." "I know, Mom. Well, then, as your mother, I want to say this. Sex is a serious thing, and you can't take it back. I know shinobi live hard and fast, but I don't think it is necessary for you to use it as a demonstration of your love. Why not leave it hanging as a reward for coming back?" Lena suggested, trying to appeal to Ino's playful side. "Because I know he will be coming back either way. He promised to pop in a couple times a month." "Look, Lena, this is something I have thought about and I know is right," Ino said with as much confidence as she could muster. Lena sighed but decided to switch tactics. "Look, kiddo, I am not going to try to talk you out of it anymore. You are a bold young woman, and I will trust you to make the choices. Know that I am here for you, okay? Oh, and be smart about it. Your father and I aren't ready to be grandparents yet." Ino blushed. Kids with Ruto would be amazing, but her mother was right, and she didn't want them yet. She settled with, "Thanks, Mom. That means a lot. So, what do you have planned for the night?" Ino giggled. "Well, I planned the date tonight. We can't really go into the village because of all the idiots, but I think Naruto will have fun." "You're not gonna tell me?" Lena said in a pouty voice. Ino giggled. "Hee, we will talk about it after. Promise. I will hold you to that, kiddo. Have fun." Lena left Ino to get ready and decided to try and soothe Inoichi's worries. Maybe it was time for Mama to get some of her own. Ino showed up at the Senju compound and walked through the gates. She really appreciated the Senju family trusting her enough to let her be keyed into the compound. Of course, a previous life's worth of memories will do that, but it was still a nice sentiment. Ino heard a pair of wolf whistles come from the garden gazebo and looked over to see Tsunade and Kurama enjoying a bottle of sake together. She couldn't stop the thought that they looked really cute together. "Hey, Mama, Q, how are you two doing?" Ino chirped merrily and diverted her path. "Good, sweetie, what do you have planned for the night?" Tsunade asked with a knowing smile on her face. "Oh, I planned a date night for Ruto, and I wanted to surprise him." "Is he ready yet?" "The kid should be getting out of the shower. We were at the stadium for a while, and he needed to clean up for you. Why don't you join us?" Kurama said coolly before sipping on a saucer of sake. Ino cocked her head to the side. "What were you doing at the stadium?" she asked, genuinely curious. Kurama glanced at Tsunade, who nodded, before he responded. "Well, my brother Kokuo was killed in the stadium. When use Biju, die, our essence remains in the area until it can reform. It turns out that our cores are formed from natural energy and Naruto is absorbing my brother slowly into the seal so that he doesn't have to endure the pain of reforming." Ino froze mid-step, stunned by the information. Tsunade and Kurama's chuckles broke her out of her shock, and she sat down in the gazebo next to Tsunade, who pulled her into a motherly snuggle. "Wow, okay, that's, wow. So, Ruto is going to have 2 Biju in him. For now," was Kurama's reply. "What do you mean by that?" Ino asked curiously. Tsunade took over for Kurama. "Well, Naruto already has 3 chakra sources, his own, Kurama's and natural energy. The more of Kokuo's chakra he absorbs, the more it is messing with his system. If it doesn't stabilize, we will have to find an alternative." "Oh," Ino said before falling into a stunned silence while cuddling into Tsunade. "Yeah, new territory for all of us. I appreciate how far he is willing to go for my family though," Kurama said before turning toward the door to the patio. "Heya, Kit, you ready for this lovely young lady?" Naruto walked out with his long blonde locks hanging wildly over his face. He used water manipulation to draw the water out of his hair before he guided the globule toward the garden. He then ran his hands through his hair and guided it into an unstable, spiky mess. Naruto looked up and beamed a smile at the trio. "Sure thing, Q. Heya, Ino. You look beautiful." It was true, Ino was in a purple skirt that went down to mid-thigh, and she was wearing a belly shirt that showed off her tan stomach. Her blonde hair was let down and her bangs covered her right eye. "Thanks, Ruto. Well, Mama, Q, we will be back late. Don't wait up," Ino said merrily before dashing over to Naruto and latching her arm in his. "All right, you two have fun. Make good choices," Tsunade said in a motherly tone before refilling her saucer. "You too, Mama. Take care of her, Q." Naruto shot back and got a wave of the hand from Kurama in response. Ino enjoyed the fact that they were in the clan compound area, and she didn't have to tolerate too many civilians. The village was truly divided between shinobi and civilians on the Naruto issue, and she didn't want those ignoramuses to ruin her date night with Naruto. She enjoyed a cheerful and positive conversation with Naruto as they climbed up the Hokage monument. So far, so good. Ino plopped down on the head of the 4th and began unsealing the picnic she had planned for Naruto. She went with sushi, since ramen wasn't really a romantic dinner entree, onigiri and spicy edamame before she pulled out a bottle of white wine. She set aside a box of chocolate-covered strawberries for dessert and then poured a glass of wine for each of them. The two began eating in relative silence and peace as they soaked in the view from the Hokage monument. "Ruto, I want you to remember Konoha like this. I want you to remember me and your friends," Ino said softly, setting her wine glass down. Naruto put his free hand on hers. "I know, Ino. My anger and frustration have nothing to do with you. You are my anchor in the storm, my love." "Oh ho, then what is Tamari?" Ino asked coyly. Naruto thought about it for a moment before responding, "She is the wind in my sails. Each of you are unique, beautiful, powerful and necessary for me to complete my journey through life." Ino gasped as her heart skipped a beat and she interlaced her fingers in Naruto's. "Good answer," she whispered. A distant smile appeared on Naruto's face. Just the truth, my love. The two finished their dinner and fed each other some chocolate-covered strawberries in between flirting and tender kisses. After cleaning up, Ino held out her hand and guided Naruto toward one of her own secret retreats. They walked through the woods that Naruto had grown behind the Hokage monument, and Naruto was content to let Ino lead him. He simply soaked in the moment and basked in her essence. After a 15-minute walk, Ino brought Naruto to the base of a beautiful and sparkling waterfall. The sun was bathing the horizon in an orange glow, and the droplets of the waterfall were catching that dusky light and magnifying it. Naruto appreciated the beauty of the area, and he laughed like a child when Ino caught him by surprise and pushed him into the pool at the base of the waterfall. Naruto surfaced and made a show of shaking out his long blonde locks as Ino giggled. Naruto barely processed that she was jumping into the pool in her birthday suit before he was splashed in the face. The next thing he felt was Ino snaking her hands under his shirt. He lifted his arms over his head and allowed her to remove his white button-down for him. He spun around to face her, and he felt her hands on his chest with her nails tickling his skin. Her hands roamed and explored the toned abdomen as Ino placed a passionate kiss on Naruto's lips. Aphrodite's influence won out as Ino memorized every contour of Naruto's chest and abs before natural temptation led her to placing her hands in Naruto's belt. She continued kissing him as she fumbled to undo the belt and equalize the natural balance between man and woman. She was naked, so Naruto should be naked. With a metallic click that Ino could hear from below the water, she knew that she had finally conquered Naruto's belt, and she watched him bend down to remove his pants and briefs. She giggled melodiously as Naruto tossed his soaked pants over his shoulder without a care in the world. She moaned as Naruto re-engaged the kiss and freed his hands from their imaginary restraints. She felt her skin give way to his fingertips, she felt his soft touch flitter over every curve of her womanly figure, and she processed the gasp that escaped her lips when the temptation of Ino's perky, light pink nipples became too much for Naruto to resist. She felt fiery warmth flare through her body, and every synapse of every nerve was firing at full sensitivity. She lost herself in the sensation of his ministrations, and she focused her mind on returning his kiss and fulfilling her part in the delicate dance of tongue and lips. She gasped for air when he broke the kiss, and her breath hitched when he nibbled on her collarbone. As the stimulation grew and the fiery warmth turned into a full-blow blaze, Ino felt her body constrict and shudder as her eyes rolled back for a brief second. Ino struggled to regain her senses and not let it end with just one. She forced clarity into her thoughts as her will struggled against a mind saturated with oxytocin and dopamine. Her love-addled consciousness did everything it could to make her submit in contentedness, but she resisted, knowing that she wanted more out of the night. Through half-lidded eyes, Ino guided her hands to the rod that had grown rigid as it was trapped in between the two. As the heated session reached its next stage, Ino firmed her resolve and committed herself to the path. Underneath the water, the rod made one thought flitter through her hazy brain: holy shit, he is big. She didn't let that intimidating factor stop her as her hands began following the natural motion. She enjoyed the slippery sensation of the water and smirked as an idea came to her. She called upon the fiery feeling in her body and used it to warm her hands and the cool water around Naruto's member. She was almost instantly rewarded as Naruto's hands froze and his head tilted back in pleasure. She smiled seductively at him before she released one hand from its ministrative duties and used it to grab her lover by his blonde locks and pull him into a kiss. Her right hand continued its task, but she gasped and was put on the back foot as Naruto's hands found purchase on her bare ass. A battle to please ensued, and both blonde lovers submitted to the temptations of Aphrodite. After bringing Naruto to climax, Ino smiled seductively and swam to the side of the pool. She rinsed off in the waterfall and allowed the pressure of the water to clear her mind and allow him to push forward. She nearly lost herself during the second orgasm, and she could still feel the tingly sensation in her womanhood, and she was confident the waterfall wasn't the only thing she felt trickling down her leg. She felt Naruto's hands snake around her abdomen, and she felt his cock rub between her ass cheeks as Naruto pulled her in close. She was surprised to feel that it was still rigid, but that was what she wanted. She extended her arms over her head and latched onto his blonde locks as the gravity-induced water pounded down on the couple. She firmed her resolve and turned around. "Ruto, make a small house, please," she whispered as seductively as she could. Your wish is my command, princess. He whispered back before placing a brief kiss on her lips. She watched Naruto walk to the side of the pool and place his hands on the ground. She never took the miracle of his Mokuden for granted, and this time was no different. She watched as he formed a tiny, one-bedroom cottage on the side of the pool. He left a double door open to a small patio that faced the pool and waterfall. He walked over to his soggy clothes and set them up on a hanger of sorts before unsealing something out of the soaked pants. Ino watched him take the scroll to the new bedroom, and she watched him lay out a sleeping mat on top of the wooden bed before covering it in sheets. Ino sauntered over to Naruto in her birthday suit and pushed him confidently, with both hands, onto his back on the bed. She closed her eyes and took a deep breath before climbing on top of him. She hovered over him and began placing intermittent kisses on his lips. She watched as his azure blue eyes searched her soul and asked if this was what she wanted. With a nod, she watched the shackles of restraint shatter. Ino was surprised when Naruto reversed the positions and positioned himself between her legs. The head danced between thin, light pink lips in a sensual tease that drove Ino crazy. She pulled his head to hers and kissed him passionately. She trailed her nails down his toned back to his shoulder blades, and it was then that she felt him enter her. Even if she had memories of sex, nothing could have prepared her for the sudden shot of pain that interrupted such a magical moment. She dug her nails into his back to compensate for the pain, and for the first, and only, time in her life, she cursed his size. Ino felt her walls clamp around his member, and she felt every tingly pulse as he inched himself into her. She gasped when she looked down and noticed that he wasn't sheathed in her. She closed her eyes and bit her lip as she told him to get it over with. She felt her belly bulge and her uterus contract as he obeyed her command, and she couldn't catch the gasp that forced its way out of her lungs. She opened her eyes to see concerned azure blue looking back at her with nothing but love in them. Ino pulled her nails out of his back and apologized meekly as she noticed blood under each of her fingernails. Of course, her blonde stud waved it off and had healed already, but that didn't stop her from kissing him meekly in apology. Once the pain had receded, a new, positive sensation began to replace it. She told him to start moving, and then she held on tight to her sanity. The overwhelming and orgasmic feelings of his rod repeatedly thrusting into her womanhood shot her straight through the atmosphere into Cloud 9. Ino lost count, and she struggled to remain conscious as her erogenous nerves overstimulated her brain. Oxytocin and dopamine poured out in droves and made the whole event seem like a fever dream. A dream she never, ever wanted to forget. She felt his hand rubbing circles on her clit with a watery sensation as the fingertips of the other kneaded her breast. It all combined to be too much and resulted in repeat explosions of her womanhood. After Cammy knows how long, she actually does, since Cammy was watching while giggling perversely. Ino's tight contractions brought Naruto to his second climax. Ino gasped again before her eyes rolled back as a tight space was filled with an abundance of white, life-giving milk. Ino's world went black as she let Morpheus guide her through the land of dreams. It may be because of all of the residual dopamine, but Ino's dreams were overwhelmingly positive. The next thing Ino knew, she was waking up to the chirp of birds and the rhythmic rise and fall of Naruto's chest. She smiled contentedly and thanked Cammy for a wonderful night. Her nose wrinkled cutely when she thought that she heard somebody say, "You're welcome, Missy." Gifts and hard goodbyes. After an amazing night with Ino, Naruto was forced to return to the real world, where he only had 10 days left to set everything right before heading out of the village for his trip. He made the rounds to his friends by day as hordes of shadow clones consumed untold amounts of ink, paper and chakra to meet the insane amounts of orders placed by the clans of Konoha. It was much harder for Naruto to willingly go on the training trip this time around since he had so many strong bonds. It was this realization that made Naruto realize that he would be returned to Konoha no matter what the civilians had to say. Naruto started with the Aburame. He accepted a dinner invite from the clan head after a long day of helping them get a couple of hives set up in their compound. Naruto had created 3 queens for the Biju bugs, 2 queens that fed off of his senjutsu chakra, and he had brought a bee that he found in the Jura forest and named Apita. He named it this because Naruto already had a bee named Abato, and he thought that he should follow that trend. Apita was a wonder that existed somewhere in between magicules and chakra. Since it was named by Naruto, it seemed like it could remain in the elemental nations with no chakra cost. After naming it, Naruto noticed that the bee grew in size, and it became sentient. The Aburame could communicate with it, and it seemed like Ipita was more than happy to stay on the Aburame compound, even if she would always be loyal to Naruto. The Aburame practically fell to their knees in gratitude when Naruto introduced them to Ipita. The bee creature was already setting up a hive after explaining to Naruto exactly what it wanted and what it would need to survive. After Naruto grew the habitat, the Aburame were entranced by the fact that Ipita hovered over or rested on Naruto's shoulder for the rest of the day. They allowed the queen bee to join them for dinner, and the bee was already showing remarkable signs of intelligence despite being named less than a day ago. The dinner with the Aburame was strange, but according to Shino it was far more lively than usual. Naruto laughed at this because it was insanely tame and quiet compared to a Senju dinner. Regardless, Naruto enjoyed the event and he agreed to take 2 queens for further experimenting with him on his trip. He set up a Hiraishin relay in the Aburame compound so that they could continue their experiments throughout the training trip. The first experiment was Naruto taking 2 queens and he was going to try to feed them a mixture of Kurama's chakra, Senjutsu chakra and raw meat. They were hoping for an even bigger variant of the Biju bug and were excited to see what properties the bugs would have. At nights, Naruto spent the time with exclusively Ino for the first couple nights. Then Temari joined in, and things got a little wild. This author feels like enough of the deets were given in this chapter, so suffice it to say Temari got her cherry and her threesome cherry popped. The nights seemed like a fever dream because every night was filled with passion, lust and pheromones, but nobody was complaining. Moving on, the next stop for Naruto was actually Might Guy, which meant Rock Lee as well by proxy. Naruto spent a night providing seals that would assist in training, creating workout planes, extra training sessions focused on chakra flow and reinforcement, and short-ranged weapons training. Guy preferred nunchucks, but Lee had trained in bladed tonfa. Naruto requested Guy to provide extra instruction to the rookies on this so that they could better learn to use them, or at least defend against them. Naruto also came on that night to let Guy and Lee know that the procedure was scheduled for the following day. Naruto had blocked off the morning to be in the hospital with Tsunade and they had come up with a concrete game plan to allow Lee to use chakra. This news was accompanied by 2 bear hugs from extremely muscled and excitable men. After Naruto healed the new bone fractures and accepted their apologies, he left for another enjoyable night at the Senju compound. The next day, Naruto went with Tsunade to the hospital and walked into the surgical ward. He gave Guy a reassuring pat on the shoulder and a fist bump to Lee before they put Lee into medically induced sleep. The operation consisted of Naruto and a couple clones drawing a new chakra circulatory system onto Lee. This required 722 seals because they had to be applied to the anterior and posterior of Lee's tenketsu. Hiyashi assisted in the operation and guided Tsunade as she fulfilled her role in the procedure. After the new, Fuinjutsu-based, chakra circulatory system was drawn on, Tsunade used medical jutsu to reroute ancillary nerves toward the seals. Hiyashi played a critical role in making sure everything aligned properly and that the nerves integrated with the seals. Tsunade needed her strength of 1,000 feet seal active in order to force Lee's body to integrate the seals, and she was completely exhausted after 3 hours of non-stop work. She ordered the nursing staff to keep Lee in a medically induced sleep for the next 2 days to let his body naturally integrate the new addition. It would be a very long learning curve for Lee, but with his work ethic nobody doubted his ability to gain control and mastery of his new ability. The next day, Naruto spent at the Yamanaka flower shop. He immediately knew that Inoichi knew what had been going on. Needless to say, his girlfriend's father wasn't happy, and he was in overprotective father mode. Regardless, after a few death threats, Inoichi let it go and focused on what he needed before Naruto left for his trip. Naruto built the framework for 3 new greenhouses on his clan's property, and he grew the requested plants for Inoichi. No matter how mad Inoichi was, he would begrudgingly admit that Naruto was an absolute blessing on his family. After integrating a new irrigation system into the greenhouses with a combination of earth and water jutsu, Naruto accepted Inoichi's invite to dinner. From the looks Lena was giving him, it was pretty clear to Naruto that the flower shop goss had gotten to Lena, and she knew everything. After an awkward, yet enjoyable, dinner, Naruto sent a shadow clone with a book titled, bedroom spice, sex games and techniques, to Inoichi's bedroom. The clone left it on Inoichi's pillow and then transformed into a fly on the wall. Naruto wasn't disappointed when the memories of Inoichi's reaction hit his brain, he simply laughed it off and knew Inoichi would thank him later. Naruto's next stop was much harder. With less than a week left, Naruto went to the Uchiha compound to extend an olive branch to Makoto Uchiha. He didn't know her last time around, but she was important to his mom, and he wanted to help his sensei's mother. The Uchiha had lost almost half of their fighting force during the invasion and the clan was still struggling to recover. Naruto, Ino, Temari and Hikari brought dinner over for Makoto and made sure to bring Shisui and Itachi. Makoto appreciated the gesture, and she was ecstatic to see her son and nephew join them for dinner. Naruto took this opportunity to introduce himself as the Konoha representative of the neighborhood watch, a fact that Itachi and Makoto were shocked by. He told each of them that he would look for Sasuke and try to bring him back. He also told them the locations of the bases that he remembered from his previous life and passed it off as information his sources had recently acquired. This gave Makoto hope and purpose beyond simply living for the clan. Naruto was glad he brought the girls because he could tell that Makoto simply needed some time and interaction away from the Uchiha clan members. It was clearly stressful dealing with the fallout of such a tragedy, especially when the tragedy took your husband and clan head. Throughout the night, the girls distracted Makoto and talked about any number of things. Naruto got a couple good stories about his mother out of the Uchiha matriarch, and he was happy to see that she was smiling by the end of the night. The next day, Naruto spent fulfilling requests for the village. Unfortunately, this meant that he was out and about amongst the villagers. This was super uncomfortable and multiple times Naruto was forced into flashbacks of his previous life. It was also on this day that Kokuo woke up and felt the feelings of the villagers. It didn't help that Kokuo also took this opportunity to sync with Naruto and review his memories. An unfamiliar chakra and an unfamiliar anger boiled up in Naruto and he had to go into the seal and talk to Kokuo to suppress it. "Hey there bud, could you calm down for me?" Naruto asked as he walked across the field of the mindscape. He noticed that Kokuo was now 2 stories tall after his nightly efforts to absorb his natural energy. Evidently, Naruto had absorbed enough that Kokuo was starting to heal on his own and Naruto was relieved that he would no longer have to go through that arduous process. Kokuo was rampaging like a stallion and clearly didn't hear Naruto or know that he was in the mindscape. Naruto focused his mind and called out, "Mokuden, Hokage-style 60-year-old technique, Kakuin entering society with bliss-bringing hands." Massive pillars of Mokuden chakra rose around Kokuo and each pillar was topped with a face like a dragon mask. After a minute, Kokuo calmed down and was seated in between the pillars. Despite the extremely long and awkward name, Naruto marveled at the power of the first Hokage's jutsu. He disabled the jutsu before he put Kokuo to sleep because he needed to have a conversation with the dolphin horse. "Feeling better, Kokuo?" Naruto asked tentatively. The Might Biju looked down on Naruto as its tails flickered about slowly behind it. Its semicircular eyes took in his appearance and felt his calming chakra. After a minute, Kokuo blew steam out of its nostrils in a huff. "Yes, Naruto Senju, I am calm now." Kokuo answered. "I apologize for rampaging." Naruto waved his new tenant off. "No worries, do you want to tell me what upset you?" Kokuo narrowed her eyes and looked closely at Naruto. "I reviewed your memories." A look of understanding flashed onto Naruto's face. "Ah, yes, that would do it. Sorry you had to see all of that." Naruto adopted his sheepish pose. "Why did you save me, Naruto Senju? Why put yourself at risk rather than let me reform naturally?" I guess it was because I could feel your pain. I am a sage, and I am attuned to the natural energy of the world. I figured I had room for you in here and I was confident that I could take on at least one new tenant." Naruto said nonchalantly. Kokuo growled, "So, you did it for my power." Naruto waved his hands in front of him. No. I don't know if you could tell, but I am kind of stacked in the power department. If you saw my previous life, then you should have seen memories of the Akatsuki. Well, those guys are still out there, and you are far safer in me than reforming alone against a eternal Mangekyo Sharingan that controlled Kurama and a Rinnegan wielder, even if the eyes don't belong to him. Kokuo closed her eyes and seemed to ponder this bit of information. She sensed no lies in his words, and she was forced to admit that this container was much more comfortable than Han. Very well, am I to remain in you then? Naruto shrugged, dunno, haven't thought that far ahead. I think I would be able to transfer you to another, if you so wish. However, that would take time and you finding the right host. Would you not let me run free? Kokuo asked with a not-so-hidden challenge in her tone. Naruto tapped his chin in thought, what if I said that after the Akatsuki are dealt with, then I will find a way? While I understand Biju, human greed and fear do not. If I were to release you now, then you would constantly be on the run and having to watch your back. Why not help me save and change the world, then I will find a peaceful resolution. Kokuo nodded its dolphin-like head up and down. Very well, Naruto Senju, I will trust you for now. Now tell me, where is my brother? Naruto shot a smirk at Kokuo. You didn't review all of my memories, did you? Kokuo turned its massive head in confusion. No, I started stampeding after I saw the beatings and looked through your eyes at those villagers out there. Naruto nodded in understanding. Alright, Kokuo, a couple things to know. 1. The seal is open so when you rampage it has a direct effect on me. 2. Please take the time to review my memories. It will take you a while, but they will explain a lot. 3. Is there anything I can add to my mindscape to make it more enjoyable for you? Kokuo was blown away by this boy. Han wasn't an expressive man and they had more of a master-servant relationship. Of course, Kokuo never went along with it, which is why Han could only take 3 taels of chakra. However, this boy, this Senju looked at her with eyes full of compassion, understanding and pain. Oh, the depth of those eyes. Kokuo shook her head to clear her thoughts. No, Naruto, this plane is nice, and the lake will be enough for now. I will review your memories and let you know when I am ready for our next conversation. Kokuo answered his question. Okay, well, fair warning, people will pop in from time to time. Don't be alarmed, they are part of me. If you need anything, there is a mental link connected to the seal. Just try to push your thoughts to me and I will hear them. Oh, and don't worry about these stupid villagers. They are just terrified because I pulled on Kurama's chakra when your previous host killed the woman I loved right in front of me. Kokuo hung her head in shame. Yes, I saw that. Thank you, Naruto Senju, have a good day. Naruto left the mindscape and returned to the task at hand. He absorbed the temporary wooden walls created by Tenzo, clapped his hands together to go into sage mode and then formed the new wall. The dense wood chakra filled in the gap and integrated itself into the old wall. Naruto created a horde of clones to begin applying the sealing arrays that would be necessary to protect Konoha. The job took all morning and as he was about to head back to the compound, a cat-masked Anbu appeared next to him. The Hokage requires your presence, she said blandly. Naruto smiled. Memories of Anbu agent Neko, better known as Hyuga Yazuki, flashed through his mind. He wasn't too involved with her for most of his life, but he did remember that she sided with the resistance. She died shortly after joining and she really was just following Kurenai Suna. That being said, Rias was close to Anko this time around and Hyuga was one of Anko's best friends. Naturally, this meant that Naruto had run into Hyuga on multiple occasions throughout the past year and he always enjoyed it. Deciding to have some fun, Naruto stretched his hands over his head and smiled at her. Hey there, Ms. Yuzuki, how are you doing on this fine afternoon? The cast-masked, purple-haired woman fidgeted agitatedly. Naruto, please refer to me by my code name when I am on duty. Naruto shrugged nonchalantly and waved her off. Hyuga, it is just us out here. If there were anybody in hearing distance, then I would do that. How is Hayate doing? Mama's treatment's working well. Hyuga's shoulders slacked, and it seems like she would simply relent. Hayate is fine, and his illness is in recession. Now, would you kindly report to the Hokage's office? Naruto cocked his head to the side. What do you mean, Ms. Cat? I am already there. With a shit-eating grin and a cheeky wave, Naruto went up in a puff of smoke and left Cat sitting there with a hand on her mask, slowly shaking her head back and forth. How can a genin get one over on Anbu? When did he even create the shadow clone? In the Hokage's office, Naruto checked in with Itachi. It was clear to Naruto that the stress of the job was already catching up with the young Hokage. His tear troughs were more pronounced, slight blue bags under his eyes, and Itachi looked worse than he did before Tsunade began treating his disease. "What's up, sensei?" Naruto asked semi-respectfully. Itachi looked up from another document he finished stamping and placing in a pile. "Ah, Naruto. Well, I know that you, or more properly Rias, removed Orochimaru's curse seal from Anko. I am in need of such a service." "I'm listening," Naruto responded seriously. Talk to him about Fuinjutsu and he always took it more seriously. "When you destroyed the barrier, you disabled 4 of Orochimaru's bodyguards. We have been trying to interrogate them, but the seal prevents mind walking and it has a fierce loyalty seal tied into it. I would like you to remove the seal so that we may extract more information from our prisoners." Itachi explained calmly. "Ah, yeah, that would be great. We may even figure out where the snake bastard's bases are." Naruto slammed a fist into his open palm. "Oh, and that would give us a chance at recovering Sasuke." Itachi nodded, a little bit of life and grief flashed through his eyes simultaneously. "Yes, Orochimaru is a threat to Konoha and needs to be dealt with. Can you gather the necessary supplies and meet me at Anbu HQ in 30 minutes? Naruto waved him off. "I will send a clone. Why don't we go together?" Itachi honestly enjoyed the casual walk to and through Anbu HQ. Naruto was always a positive force in his life, and he was glad to have a simple conversation with him once more. A conversation free of requests, needs of the village, concerns of the council. A conversation that underlined the foundation of Itachi's relationship with the sun-kissed blonde. Itachi slowed down in front of a sealed door and looked through the reinforced glass window of the door. "This one is named Yuya. She is full-mouthed, but she has been the most talkative one and it seems like she has quite a bit of resentment towards Orochimaru," Itachi said monotonously. Naruto peeked through the window and instantly recognized the redhead. Flashes of leaving Shikamaru to fight during the previous Sasuke retrieval mission. Remembrances of how Shikamaru was the only one to return from that mission without serious injuries, which of course prompted memories of the village's reaction to his failed mission. Naruto stopped his thought processes there and focused on the mission at hand. "Can I talk to her alone?" Naruto asked. When Itachi nodded, he asked another question. "You want me to dig for information while I am doing it? Feel free to. Ibiki and I will be watching through the glass wall." Itachi walked off, and Naruto entered the room. "What the fuck do you want, shithead?" The chained redhead snarked. "Why the fuck did they send a boy in here to talk to me? You looking for a quickie?" Naruto let a flicker of amusement flash through his eyes. In his head, Yami sat up and paid attention to the interaction. Yami was extremely sensitive to negative emotions, and he was getting a truly unique blend of said emotions from this girl. Naruto smiled bemusedly at her. "Nah, I am leaving the village soon and they asked me to remove your hickey from hell," Naruto said in amusement. Yuya scoffed. "Yeah, right. How the fuck would a shithead like you be able to remove this tainted seal from that snake bastard motherfucker?" Naruto thought about it for a bit and realized she probably didn't know who he was. A mischievous smile flickered on his face. Well, I was the one to break the barrier. I killed the 5-tailed Jinchuriki, killed the Tsuchikage and made the snake bastard motherfucker flee with his legs tucked between his legs." A look of realization and horror replaced the confident smirk on Yuya's face. Internally, Yami was truly enjoying the flickering emotions. "No shit, you were the crazy motherfucker that turned into that monster." Naruto shrugged. I watched Han kill my girlfriend right in front of me. I guess I kinda snapped. I am Naruto Senju, Seal Master Extraordinaire, and I have already removed the cursed seal from Anko. So, I think I can do it for you too." Yuya's jaw hung open and she looked at his with disbelief written all over her face. "No shit. Yup, now I have been told that I am not to remove the seal if you aren't going to help us. So, in exchange for removing your cursed hickey, do you agree to cough up the deets on the snake bastard motherfucker? I really like that name for him, but I think Mofo should be replaced by Pedo." Yuya belted out a laugh. "Haha, ain't you a cheeky cunt? Sure, if you can remove this, then I will cough up some details. I don't know much." Yami spoke through the mental link. "Ruto, I like this one, she is interesting to me. Can I come out and talk? You going to keep it cool? I can't really afford for you to lose your shit because she pushed one of your buttons." Naruto thought back. I promise. Yami sent back in a serious tone. Naruto formed 2 wood clones and one of them instantly began transforming into Yami's base form. He looked with an amused and semi-wicked smile at the redhead. Tsuyu looked back into his unique eyes and cocked her head. Hey, shithead, I think something is wrong with one of your fuck toys. His eyes are all red and shit. Yami spoke, there is nothing wrong with me. This is how I am. You see, I am Naruto's dark side. I was the one that took control and killed those 2 Iowa fuckers. Now, while my brother is working, why don't we have a chat? Before Tsuyu could respond and freak out, Naruto spoke, look, Tsuyu was it. This is Yami, I am fucked in the head and have multiple personalities. Get over it. Before you 2 have your chat, please remove your shirt and bra. Tsuyu scowled at Naruto and clasped her arms over her breasts. What the fuck, shithead? I thought you were going to keep your shriveled pecker in your pants and not fucking touch me. Yami looked truly amused before he pulled down his pants and let his rod hang free in the room. There, I have showed you mine, so we will be even. Tsuyu gawked, truly impressed by the size. Holy fucking shit, is that part of your transformation? Naruto shrugged, nah, no need to change what's already perfect. I will need your shirt off to apply the counter seal. I assure you that I am not interested in full-mouthed little girls. Go fuck yourself. I am a majestic bitch, and you would never measure up. I know Clone Boy here just did what he did to make you look good. Tsuyu challenged, sincerely trying to find any reason to delay taking her shirt off. Naruto sighed, stood, pulled down his pants and showed off his glorious, shaven, 7-inch flaccid member. There, you happy now? That will be the last time you see it. So, as Yami said, I showed you mine, so now take your shirt off and stop wasting my time. If you don't, then I will go to your teammates and make this offer to them. We only need one of you. Tsuyu flinched at that, what the fuck? What will happen to the others? Naruto shrugged, not my call. I am removing your seal because our shrinks think that you would be the most likely to talk. Would you rather rot in here and we can work something out with the others? Fuck you. With a resigned sigh, Tsuyu began removing her shirt. She watched Naruto and his clone walk forward with brush and ink and set to work. She calmed down after she realized Naruto wasn't going to do anything devious and she turned to address Yami. So, what's up with eyes, red? Why do you look so different from shithead? Tsuyu asked. Yami shrugged, well, Kyuubi's influence I think, and not all of us can be a ray of sunshine like Blondie there. Tsuyu laughed, yeah, shithead seems a little too chipper. So, what's your deal? Why do you look like some emo cunt? Yami laughed, well, you crazy bitch, I am made of all of the negative emotions and memories of this guy. If you had to endure beatings, poisonings, starvation, humiliation, watch all your friends. That's enough, Yami. Naruto said sternly as he briefly paused his work on the seal. My life wasn't sunshine and rainbows, princess. Yami represents all of that bullshit, so cut him some fucking slack. Yami's gaze fell to the floor and Tsuyu seemed to think for a bit. I understand. When Orochimaru found me, I was left alone on the streets in some bumfuck town. He picked me up, trained me, and I thought he saved me. Then, I grew up and watched how he treated everyone. He could give a fuck less about me and all the other cunts that serve him. This cursed hickey was the only reason I stayed with the sick fuck. His laboratories are the stuff out of some crazy horror story. So, I know the darkness of this fucked in the head shinobi world. Yami continued to talk to Tsuyu, and it seemed to everyone like they were actually bonding. It was unusual for Naruto to see Yami so talkative rather than sitting and brooding. It took Naruto and his clone 30 minutes to apply the counter seal, and the moment finally came when he was ready to remove the seal. After warning Tsuyu, he flashed into Kurama's cloak in order to power the counter seal and then applied a blank piece of paper at the center of the seal matrix over the curse mark. Okay, Tsuyu, this is going to hurt, Naruto said, and he was amused to see Yami go over to the girl and offer a hand to squeeze. Tsuyu only hesitated for a second before she accepted the offered distraction. Naruto placed 2 fingers over the blank paper and guided the chakra down into the seal and powered the matrix. The ink flared to life, flashed a dull red, and began moving like some unseen horror under her skin. The kanji spun concentrically, and as it spun it started collapsing toward the center of the seal. Tsuyu was screaming out in pain at this point, and she was lacing in some colorful curses in between rasps of breath. The kanji spun for a total of 3 minutes before it started pushing out of Tayuya's skin. A black, inky, oily substance coagulated on top of the cursed mark and was pushed into the blank sheet of seal paper. When the process was over, Tayuya slumped unconscious over the back of the chair she was leaning on. Naruto removed the now complete seal paper and briefly inspected the seal. It contained the complete curse seal Juinjutsu on the sheet, and in the center of the seal was a snake. That was the piece of Orochimaru's soul that worked to corrupt the target, play on the negative emotions and powered the loyalty seal. It was a truly vile piece of work. Naruto allowed Yami to put a shirt on Tayuya and place her back on her bed. He then left the room with Yami, and the two saw Itachi and Inoichi waiting for them outside. After a brief conversation, Itachi said that he would make an offer to Tayuya to join Konoha. It would be a long process, but if she complied, then Itachi saw no reason to kill a potential genjutsu prodigy. The others would not be so fortunate, but Naruto didn't particularly care about any of them. After being dismissed by Itachi and reabsorbing Yami, he arrived back to see his friends sweating and cleaning up from their second daily dose of the workout routine. He greeted each of his friends and informed Neji and Hinata that he would be by the Hyuga compound tomorrow. He saw Gaara swing by before he walked out of the compound hand in hand with Hinata. Neji informed him that the two had grown really close and they had gone on multiple dates already. After saying goodbye to Neji, Naruto caught Ino and Temari and took them to their waterfall cottage to enjoy the night alone. The following day Naruto spent at the Hyuga compound. He dropped off crafting instructions for the Fuinjutsu arrows, bows, and he fulfilled a couple sealing requests for the Hyuga family. He also applied the Dujutsu protection seal to 2 young Hyuga kids that recently activated their Byakugan. He joined Hiyashi for dinner and smiled in amusement as Gaara and Hinata joined as well. After dinner, Naruto went to the study with Hiyashi where the Hyuga clan head attempted one more time to persuade Naruto to marry his daughter. Naruto gracefully declined and talked Gaara up. Hiyashi relented and dismissed him, which is when Naruto went looking for Neji. He had something he needed to give Neji and he wanted to explain some things to his friend. Naruto found Neji practicing his Jukin in the Hyuga training dojo. He slapped a privacy seal on the walls and convinced Neji to take a break so that they could have a chat. Neji looked confused, but he decided to trust Naruto since he had done so much for his clan. That was when Naruto told him about his father and the last interaction they had. Naruto watched a variety of emotions flicker on and off of Neji's normally stoic visage. Eventually, he put a comforting hand on his shoulder and his friend looked into his eyes. "Why didn't you tell me sooner, Naruto?" Neji asked the question Naruto was expecting. "Because your father asked me not to tell you until you were ready. You were the main reason I reached out to Team 9 and asked you to join our training sessions. I wanted to prepare you, mentally and physically, and show you that you can trust me. It was never my intention for things to happen the way they did. I didn't know that the Hyuga main branch was that rotten," Naruto finished despondently. Neji's face returned to its usual stoic state. "Yes, well, you can't be blamed for that. I simply wish you would have told me about my father sooner. Yeah, I will give you that, but that is why I am here today. I want to give you this scroll. When I am out in the world, I am going to look for your father. If and when I find him, I am going to give him the counterpart to this scroll. Then you can ask him anything you want," Naruto said softly, yet with a firm resolve. Neji locked eyes with Naruto and Naruto could see the tears beating up at the bottom of his white eyes. "Thank you. I don't know what else I can say." A graceful smile rested peacefully on Naruto's face, nothing else need be said. The next day, 3 days before the planned departure, something crazy happened. After the morning CrossFit session, Naruto was approached by a serious-looking Rias and a sheepish-looking Anko. That threw flags up right away because Anko never, and Kami means never, looked sheepish. "How can I help you ladies?" Naruto asked. "Ruto, I need to ask you a favor after I tell you something." Rias responded as she grabbed Anko's hand. Okay. What's up?" Naruto's confused reply made Rias chuckle in embarrassment. "Not here, Ruto, let's go to the garden." After a brisk and silent walk to the garden, Naruto turned to face the two and Rias spoke. "Okay, Ruto, Anko and I are going to get married tomorrow." Naruto embraced the two in a hug. Congratulations. That's awesome. Seriously, congratulations. Thanks, Naruto. Enko said quietly, still wearing a sheepish look. Well, what's wrong? Why do you two look like that? Rias sighed and slapped her face. Alright Ruto. I need your body for a night. Why? Naruto asked, genuinely confused. Because we want a baby and Enko thinks that doing it while we are on our training trip is a good idea. If we get her pregnant, then she can take a break from active duty and join us on the trip. Rias said exasperatedly. So, you two want a baby so that Enko can leave. Isn't that a little, I don't know, crazy? Rias slugged Naruto in the shoulder and Enko wrapped him up in a snake. Enko stepped forward, evidently returning to her normal self. Yes, Gaki, I am crazy. I love this woman and want to have a family with her. Do you know that we are not allowed to be married because shinobi need to procreate? Because those fucktards that run the village won't approve unless I am already pregnant. So, sack up, hand over your body and let Riri knock me up. Enko finished in a growl that left Naruto somewhere in between turned on and horrified. Naruto looked to Rias for help, but she seemed to simply plead with her eyes. Enko and Rias, I want to help you, but do you know what the council would do if they find out the kid is mine? Do you know what Iwa would do? Have you even thought it out that far? Both females looked down in shame, they didn't really think about that. Look, I want to help, but you are essentially asking me to be a sperm donor. Did you consider how I would feel having a biological kid out there? Would I be able to raise him or her? Would he or she ever know I am the father? There is a lot that goes into this. Silence. Silence permeated the garden for a couple minutes and Rias started to whimper. Naruto broke out of the snakes and pulled her into a hug. Enko didn't even attempt to stop him as she remained in a reflective state. Eventually, she broke the silence. Look, Gaki, I have always been a do first, think later kind of gal. You two are essentially one in the same, kinda. Do this for us and I promise we will get the rest sorted out. Naruto ran his hand down his face in exasperation. Kami, if I do this for you then I will have to do it for Yosuke and Himawari as well. Hehe, that is how I got the idea. Didn't you notice though? Rias paused here for effect and got a confused look from Naruto. Himawari is already pregnant. She must be a couple months along. Naruto stumbled back as if he took a bullet to the chest. What? When? How? Mine. Rias smirked. Look dummy, you let Yosuke have your body on multiple nights when we went to Wave. That was what, 3 months ago. How am I just finding out now? Why didn't Suke tell me? Naruto asked, truly dumbfounded. Rias shrugged, dunno, not my problem. It was actually how I got this idea though. Look, Ruto, do this for me, please. It will be like the good old days when I take your body during the night, and you are none the wiser. Yeah, except instead of waking up with cash and smelling like smoke, booze and cheap perfume I will technically be a dad 9 months later. Naruto deadpanned. Enko got a devious smile on her face, then just say that Rias took control and knocked me up. You don't have to tell everyone that we made this deal. Naruto facepalmed again. Let me guess, I won't be able to sleep in peace if I say no. Rias whistled innocently while Enko cackled. Fuck it, but you have to tell Mama, Ino and Tamari. I am not doing that for you. Enko cheered by pumping a fist into the air, but Rias paled with a terrified look on her face. Enko grabbed her by the shoulders and placed a tender kiss on her lips to snap her out of it. It will be alright babe. Once I am preggers, you know Tsunade will accept it. This decision and those words would come to haunt Enko Mitarashi in the not-so-distant future. The marriage ceremony was held the night before they left for the trip and Naruto was blushing the whole time he stood as a witness. He is damned near positive that Rias fed the memories to him on purpose. Proposal. Anyway, for the next big event, we need to rewind one day. Naruto was walking out of a store in the high-end district of Konoha before he disappeared in a shunshin. As he came to a stop at Ichiraku Ramen, the man transformed in a puff of smoke and turned into Naruto. Naruto looked down at the box in his hand and smiled contentedly. He had everything he needed, now he just needed to enlist the help of the right people. Naruto started by talking to Ayame and Kyuki and asking them to bring a family-sized assorted order to the Senju compound for dinner. He then went to enlist the help of Temari, Hinata, Gaara, Shikamaru and Choji. After getting the group on board with his plan, he went and talked to a person that honestly needed some love. He went into Sage mode and located her chakra signature before disappearing in a shunshin. Naruto arrived on Training Ground 7 to see Sakura working on some chakra control exercises alone. He figured Team 7 was probably shattered because of Sasuke's disappearance and Kakashi was never very good at dealing with loss. He shook off the thoughts of his absentee old brother figure and walked up to Sakura and gave her a casual greeting. "Heya, Sakura, long time no see," Naruto said cheerfully. Sakura turned a skeptical gaze onto Naruto. Her mother hated him, but Sakura didn't really understand why. Sure, she felt the Kyuubi's chakra and that was scary. Sure, she knew Naruto had MPD and she had met most of his personalities, even Q. But never once did she feel like Naruto would snap and turn on his comrades. Most of her dislike from the guy came from the fact that he constantly upstaged Sasuke. "What do you want, Naruto?" Sakura asked in a confused and curious tone. "Well, I am leaving soon and I wanted to know if you wanted to get your best friend back. I would feel better knowing that you had someone to be there for you and you could be there for her in return." Sakura sighed and looked down at the ground despondently. "Naruto, Ino and I don't even talk anymore. Ever since she started dating you, we have been on the outs." "So, you don't want your friend back?" Sakura's sad gaze lit with fury. "Of course I do, but she doesn't like me anymore because of you." "Is it really because of me or because you wouldn't stop trying to put me down to make Sasuke look and feel better?" "Look, I am not here for a fight. I can tell you that Ino misses you and she would like her friend back. I am giving you a chance to rebuild that burnt bridge," Naruto said in a confident, no-nonsense tone. Sakura shelved her dislike of Naruto. If he could get her friend back, that would be amazing. "How?" Naruto smiled and began explaining his plan to Sakura, who jumped up in a girly fit of glee and actually hugged Naruto. Ino was holding her parents' flower shop down after her morning CrossFit session, wishing more than anything that Naruto would come spend time with her. As she was lost in thoughts of her beloved blonde, she heard the bell ring on the door to the shop. She looked up and saw somebody that she hadn't seen in quite a while. "Hey there, Sakura, what brings you to the shop?" Ino chirped. Sakura wore an abashed look and she suddenly bowed to Ino. "Look, Ino, I am sorry for being a terrible friend. I know that it was mostly my fault, and I am sorry. I just want my friend back." Ino froze, not expecting anything like this out of her childhood best friend. Pulling on her inner Naruto, she smiled brightly at Sakura and hopped the counter before wrapping her friend up in a hug. "There is nothing to forgive, Sakura. Friends fight and drift apart. What is important is that they always come back together." Sakura was surprised by Ino's forgiveness, but she wasn't going to let this chance go. She returned the hug and cried into Ino's shoulder. After a couple minutes, she recomposed herself and remembered her mission. "Alright, well, I had this big apology planned and I booked us a day at the spa and hot spring. Don't worry about the shop, I talked to Lena, and she said she would be here soon to cover for you." Ino gave out a girly, gleeful squeal and pulled Sakura into another hug. The two spent the time catching up until Lena showed up with a massive smile on her face 20 minutes later. She gave the girls a knowing look before shooing them out of the shop. Sakura walked amiably with Ino to their favorite spa and noticed that Temari was outside waiting for them. Temari gave them a wave and joined the duo despite Ino's confusion. The girls talked, gossiped and chatted merrily as they got all done up. Ino knew something was afoot, but she couldn't quite place her finger on it. They transitioned from the spa to the hot spring where they found Tsunade and Shizune relaxing in the spring. The Senju duo enjoyed the soak with the girls and invited them to join them for dinner at the compound. Thinking nothing of it, Ino agreed, and the ever-growing group of women got dressed and made their way back to the Senju compound. As they approached the gates, the group of women saw Shikamaru and Asuma waiting at the front gates. Ino shot the pair a questioning look but shrugged it off. "Ino, it's troublesome but Naruto called us here for a training exercise," Shikamaru said, much to the confusion of the females in the group. "Yup, this one is going to be fun," Asuma said in an out-of-character fashion. Ino looked skeptically at the pair. "What is going on, you two? If this were a training exercise, then Choji would be here." "Spill it," Her tone reminded Sakura of her bossy attitude in the academy. Troublesome blonde, Choji is helping Naruto set up. Look, don't be any more troublesome than you naturally are and put this blindfold on. Shikamaru held out a blindfold to Ino. Ino watched him put his on before casting a pleading look to Asuma, who just smirked at her. She relented and put the blindfold on. Sakura, can you watch me and make sure these two don't do anything stupid? Silence except for the breathing of Shikamaru and Asuma. Sakura, they already left kiddo. Asuma said. Alright, this exercise is about extrasensory perception. I will be guiding you two through an obstacle course set up by Naruto. Little did Ino know that Shikamaru had already removed the blindfold. Gah, fine, whatever sensei. Let's just get this over with. I was having such a good day before you showed up. Ino said in an obstinate pout. Asuma chuckled heartily. Yeah, blame it on me. Getting walking. Ino stumbled into the Senju compound and instantly found that something was different. The normal path was narrower, the air smelled richly of flowers. She knew that smell, sun lilies, a whole bunch of sun lilies. At least Naruto was thoughtful enough to use her favorite plant in this exercise. Ino continued to feel her way down the narrow path, and it became easier to walk as time went on. 10 minutes later, Ino reached the end of the path as she felt the path closed by the same familiar plant she had used to guide her way. Good job, Ino, you can take the blindfold off now. Asuma said, unable to hide the happiness in his voice. Ino removed the blindfold and saw a field full of sun lilies, and in front of her she saw something that made her gasp and cover her mouth with her hands. As she looked down, she saw Naruto in a formal kimono with yellow embossing, and he was down on one knee while holding something in his hand. Before Ino could recompose herself, Naruto began speaking in a shaky voice. Ino Yamanaka, your beauty lights up my world brighter than the sun. As these lilies grow, I can't help but think they pale in comparison to your beauty. How could they compare? You are strong, beautiful, smart, compassionate, obstinate, and everything I could ask for in this life or the next. Before I go, I just wanted to know, Ino Yamanaka, would you do me the honor of marrying me? Naruto opened the box to show a white gold band studded with diamonds that centered around a beautiful diamond in a sure cut. Ino kept her hands over her mouth, not daring to believe this was real. Tears were trickling from her eyes as the events of the day started making sense. Naruto had enlisted the help of all the important people in her life and even went out of his way to rekindle a lost friendship. She didn't know how long Naruto was waiting, but eventually she snapped out of it and choked out a yes. Naruto dashed over and picked her up in a hug and twirled her around. As Naruto spun her, the genjutsu hiding everyone faded and they all shouted their congratulations. If Ino wasn't in Naruto's arms already, she would have jumped out of her skin in surprise. Ino saw her father, Lena, Sakura, Tsunade, Shizune, Q, Rias, Anko, Yosuke, Hikari, Shikamaru, Choji, Asuma, Shukaku, Yoshino, Chusa, Chura, Hinata, Shino, Itachi, Kurenai, Gaara and Temari standing around the field of sun lilies. Everyone was smiling at her and offering the couple their congratulations. Ino broke free from Naruto and ran to Temari. The two began jumping around like some schoolgirls on crack candy as they congratulated each other and shared in each other's happiness. Ino was excited that they were officially going to be sister wives. It was a wonderful night that would serve as a memorable send-off for those that were going on the training trip. Of course, when you throw everyone together in a festive environment and offer them free drinks, certain secrets get spilt. Tsunade would always, and I mean always, remember this night as one of the most infuriatingly enjoyable nights of her life. It all started when the guests started leaving and the party broke down into people drinking and sitting around the gazebo and chatting. Naturally, it was Rias that was the cause of all the trouble. Rias was slumped over on Anko's shoulder and giggled drunkenly as she listened to the lively conversation. Seeing an opening and not thinking of the consequences of her actions, Rias asked, "Hey, Suk, hiccup, when is Hima, hiccup, Wari due?" All laughter and giggling stopped, people froze, and saucers were halted before they could reach lips. All heads either snapped to her mechanically, and comically, turned toward Tsunade, who had spit her drink out when she heard the question. Rather than go to Yosuke, who wasn't drunk, I mean how do wood clones even get drunk, but I guess they do." Tsunade turned her head toward Rias and placed a sickeningly sweet smile on her face. "What do you mean, Riri? Care to explain?" Her tone was like the sugary coating on the outside of Hinata's cinnamon buns. Before anyone could stop Rias, even Anko because she was frozen in fear and too drunk, Rias answered her mama's question. "Hehe, Sukan, I took Ruto's body to go boom boom. It is so much better in a real body." Naruto, who had been cuddling comfortably with Temari and Ino, was now in a tight spot between two enraged fiancés and his mama who was stalking toward him. Closing his eyes and waiting for the pain, Naruto instinctively kawarimied with Yosuke, who caught a blow to the face from the enraged slug Sannin. When the dust cleared, Tsunade saw Yosuke trying to shake off the birdies and everyone was looking at the back of Naruto that was running through the Senju Gardens. 3 blonde women stood and gave chase. It took less than 10 minutes for the trio of enraged women to capture, brutalize and tie up Naruto. The conversation in the gazebo froze once again as Tsunade dumped the despondent blonde in the center of the gazebo. Tsunade looked around at the altars and growled, "Everyone who has used his body, sit right next to him." Her tone was a growl and her face promised death for refusal. Rias and Yosuke shyly slid next to Naruto and took a seat Caesar-style next to Naruto. "Spill, now." The group listened on in shock and amusement as Yosuke told of his date nights that Naruto let him use his body. The details were skipped but the end result was the same. Himawari, a foreign kunoichi and friend of the family, was pregnant. Tsunade face-palmed herself and dragged her hand slowly down her face. "Suke, you will marry this woman and take responsibility for your actions. She will live with us and need to be under our protection." Tsunade paused here, thought for a bit, and then looked around at those in attendance: Ino, Temari, Anko, Gaara, Inoichi, Lena, Hinata, Kurama, Yami and Shizune. "The rest of you lot, this does not leave this family. You 3, Inoichi, Lena and Hinata, you need to either swear to this or I will need to alter your memories." Inoichi put a protective arm in front of Lena. "You cannot do that, Tsunade." "Inoichi, do you understand what it would mean if this got out?" Tsunade growled, "I am already fighting tooth and nail against the damned council of this Kami-forsaken village. Promise or I take drastic action." Lena grabbed Inoichi's hand and squeezed it in a comforting manner. "Dear, they will be family. That is what we are celebrating tonight. Consider this a clan matter and client confidentiality." Inoichi sighed and sagged his head. "Fine, I will keep this matter in the family." "Good," Tsunade said before turning her anger on Rias and Anko. "You two, I don't even know what to say, how can you be so stupid?" Rias puffed her cheeks and got angry at this. "Mama, I am like in my mid-20s. We want a kid, and the council won't allow same-sex marriage from a top kunoichi for the sake of procreation and proliferation of good genetics. I love Anko and I will spend my life with her." "Lady Tsunade, I agree with what Rias said. We have thought this through." Anko pleaded. "Oh ho, so you are okay with denying Naruto his rights to fatherhood? You would put that burden on him willingly?" Tsunade challenged and she took a smug satisfaction as the onlookers all paled and shrunk back in their seats. Rias stood up challengingly, "And you would have us take some sperm donor that doesn't deserve my Anko?" "Kami, Mama, you should understand this." This statement drew confused looks from those gathered, but it clearly impacted Tsunade. "What do you mean by that?" Rias scoffed. "Oh, please, like I haven't seen you in Q. As if the greatest of the Biju would ever let another man have the right to be your mate. I saw you shoot down Raza last time he tried." Rias covered her mouth, realizing that her drunken lack of inhibition made her slip and overshare. All heads started darting back and forth between Kurama and Tsunade. Naruto had a feeling but everyone else was clearly shocked by the spill of information. The tension was incredibly thick, and it hovered in the air over everyone's shoulders. Everyone sat frozen, unable or unwilling to move as Tsunade's hands clenched into fists and glowed a bluish-green with chakra. Kurama decided to stand up for his potential mate. "Look here, Rias, what you just shared wasn't yours to share. We are just figuring things out and haven't gotten to the point of kits, yet." Kurama reached out and took one of Tsunade's balled fists into his hand and made her relax a bit. Anko mirrored Kurama's actions after gaining a sudden burst of courage by realizing that she was Anko fucking Mitarashi and she wasn't scared of nobody. "Well, When the time comes and you do reach that point, would you not come to the same conclusion we have? Is there a better man? Is there anyone you would ever trust more than your partner in life to assist you with something so important? Enko's tone grew more confident and more challenging as she got into her stride. So, everyone is just going to pimp out my son? Tsunade asked incredulously. Ruto agreed to let us do this, mama. He understood what it means to us. At the end of the day, we are a family. At the end of the day, we will figure it out. At the end of the day, we are all in this together. Rias shouted. Holy shit, this is the most interesting case of MPD in history, Inoichi whispered under his breath. Tsunade turned on him, and you are okay with something like this? They are pimping out your future son-in-law. Inoichi shrugged in resignation, it is not my choice. I threw the word, normal, out the window when I started interacting with Ruto. Ino decided to enter here. Look, mama, I know that I trust Ruto. I wish he would have told me about this sooner, but it is not like I can't understand where he is coming from. And Rias is right, at the end of the day we are destined to be one, big, crazy, happy family. Family above all, Temari said timidly, which put a smile on Shizune, Naruto, Anko, Rias and eventually Tsunade. Fuck it, I need a drink. As the leader of this crazy family, I am making a rule that I will need to be notified of any such stupidity before you do it. Tsunade sat down, cuddled into Q and grabbed a bottle of sake without a saucer. Naruto stood up and felt like he should address this awkward situation. Look, everyone, we will figure this out as we go. Nobody, and I mean nobody, can let this out of the family. For those that don't know, I have many enemies. For starters, there is Iwa and Orochimaru. Iwa would probably kill you and I don't even want to think about what Orochimaru would do for the Mokuden bloodline. Next, there is the Akatsuki. If they know we are having babies left and right, then they will use that against me. I love each of you too much to let something bad happen to you. Please, be careful with this. The kid is right. Anko, if you are moving forward with this then we will house you in the compound. Temari, Ino, I can smell what happened. If either of you, Inoichi jumped to his feet in shock. And interrupted Kurama. His head turned mechanically toward Naruto and killing intent flooded the gazebo. You didn't, his voice came out in a menacing whisper. He looked at the abashed look on Ino's face and shook Lena's hand off of him. Run, brat. Naruto was terrified by the look on Inoichi's face. He looked to his mama for help, who shrugged at him. He looked to his two girls and saw that Temari was holding Ino in a comforting manner. He looked back to Inoichi and darted away. Inoichi gave chase and another 10-minute chase ensued. Unfortunately for Inoichi, Naruto was much faster and more agile than him. Unfortunately for Naruto, Inoichi specialized in jutsus that shattered the mind. Ino saw her father going through the hand signs for the Yamanaka Kenjutsu, mind destruction technique, and she tackled him before he could cast the jutsu. Daddy, that is enough. Ino shouted and glared down at her pouting father as she stood over him. I love Ruto. I am going to marry Ruto. What I do with Ruto is my business. Now, apologize. Ino, baby girl, please, Inoichi pouted in a shattered, fatherly manner. No, daddy. I love you and you just need to accept that I am growing up. I can make my own choices. Ino shouted down at her father. It is never boring when I hang out with my brother. Gaara said calmly as he drank some more sake. You have no idea, Kit. You have no idea, Kurama lamented but internally he was laughing. This was so much better than his partner's previous life. Tsunade sighed after chugging the bottle and a blush adorned her cheeks. The damned brat just never stops doing stupid things. Family isn't stupid, mama. Everything Naruto does is for this family. Temari decided to enter the conversation. That is why we love him. This comment summed up the night and eventually everyone went off to bed. Departure. Tsunade, Shizune, Naruto, Anko and Jiraiya were in Itachi's office and getting ready to sign out. Itachi was perplexed as to why Anko was there, but he figured he may as well find out. Alright, Senju family, thanks for meeting with me. It is a sad day to see you leave the village once more. Before we get to that, may I ask what you are doing here, Anko? Itachi kept his professional, cool monotone. Well, somebody knocked me up and I am applying for maternity leave. Enko said crassly, which made Jiraiya face plant and Itachi slam his head on the desk. Jesus Enko, a little discretion. Shizune gasped out. What you mean? I got a bun in the oven, and I don't feel like going out on missions. I figured I would join the Senjus on their little trip because Tsunade is my doctor. Ain't that right, mama? Tsunade face-palmed. Did her grandson's alter ego have to pick such a troublesome girl? Yeah, I guess. Itachi knew he was missing something that he wasn't going to get out of the members in his office. He decided to ask, who is the father? Enko shrugged in a snarky manner, who knows? Don't you know they call me the snake whore? Can't possibly remember all of the guys. Enough, Enko. I know you haven't slept with a man in almost a year. Itachi cut in. Enko shrugged again, Ma, oh well. I don't know. Itachi turned his gaze on the Senju family. You know, don't you, Naruto? Naruto shrugged, not my business, Lord Hokage. Itachi turned his gaze on each member of the Senju family and got nothing for his efforts. Finally, Itachi sighed, Enko, you are a special Jonin. I cannot let you simply leave the village. If you wish for a reprieve from duty, then that is your right as a pregnant kunoichi. How far along are you? Enko growled, no, I haven't taken vacation in years Itachi. I have served Konoha for 12 straight years. You will let me go on. This training trip. You have the kid's calling card. You can still issue us missions as we travel. There is no legitimate reason not to let me go. Before things could escalate further, Tsunade sighed and spoke up, Itachi, the Senju family requests Enko Mitarashi as a trainer for our trip. We will pay the appropriate price for a long-term, ranked mission. Itachi cast a skeptical look at Tsunade, then shifted to Naruto, then to Enko. Must the Senju always be so troublesome? He sighed out. Naruto beamed a cheeky smile at Itachi, are you channeling your inner Nara, Lord Hokage? Itachi glared at his student, enough. This is no longer a game, Naruto. I am losing 2 Sannin and A.S. rank ninja. It is a real problem as we recover from an invasion and are in an undeclared state of war. Tsunade stepped forward, well then, you will need funds. You will need supplies. You will need seals. I reiterate, you can summon us in real time, issue us missions and our training will make Enko's rank by the time we are done, after the baby. Itachi put his head in his hands, okay, write the mission scroll up. Naruto walked forward and put his hand on Itachi's shoulder. Look, sensei, I will help the ninja of this village. Truth be told, the only reason I am leaving is because of the civilian population. Get them under control and I will be your asset in the field. Jiraiya had been watching the whole time with a mixture of amusement and irritation. He should have been part of this family, but they didn't reciprocate his love of the village. Naruto should have run to him. Instead, Naruto ran to Tsunade who harbored no love for his village. His recent actions have done nothing but ostracize him from his student's family, his family. Jiraiya stepped forward, put on his idiot pervert mask and pointed a bold thumb to his chest. Don't worry, Itachi. I will be there with them. We will make the most of our time and you can send missions to me through my toad summons. Jiraiya, we have communication scrolls, Naruto said blandly with a bit of sarcasm dashed for flavoring. Jiraiya was enshrouded by a rain cloud while Tsunade laughed obnoxiously at her former teammate. Itachi just put his head in his hands. Finally, Itachi spoke, you will be assigned regular missions based on your current location. In return for me allowing Enko to travel with you, you will respond within 1 hour for any communication I send. Now, the paperwork monster has grown due to the length of our conversation. Itachi paused here and offered a genuine smile to the group. Be safe out there, Naruto. For what it is worth, I am sorry it came to this. Will do, Lord Hokage. Expect some orders for Uncle Kinji. Use him, Itachi. Let him help you with the damn civilian council. Naruto said in a friendly tone. Itachi offered the group a weak smile and a nod before they departed. Fire capital 3 months. The contrast couldn't be greater. In Konoha, people watched him with wary eyes and fear hovered over the village. In the expansive fire capital, the Senju families were treated as royalty. The samurai guards bowed to Naruto whenever they saw him, the nobles were pleasant when they weren't kissing his ass, Kinji was a bright man and treated him as a member of the royal family. This courtesy was extended to his whole entourage, and everyone really enjoyed the first 3 months of their trip. One thing Naruto didn't expect was that Kinji demanded that Naruto had a wood or shadow clone with him at all times. It was at Kinji's insistence that Naruto began drawing up plans to reform Sunagakure so that he could claim his rightful title. He offered aid and a powerful ally in this endeavor. Being Kinji's shadow for 3 months let Naruto remediate some of his bad habits and learn the finer details of being a daimyo. Being all prim and proper was never his thing, but Kinji, or more like Kaori and Madame Shijimi, knocked some sense into him. Madame Shijimi insisted on moving back to the fire capital after Naruto's ostracization. It was one form of reprimand that Kinji was more than happy to administer to his disappointment of a ninja village. She also wanted to spend time with Naruto and the Senju family. After lessons, Naruto, or a clone of him, would spend time bonding with the rotund woman and Kaori as they hung around with the Senju family and instructed him on various aspects of the royal life. Gaara and Temari found the fire capital an absolutely amazing sight. It was roughly 10 times larger than Sunagakure and 4 times larger than the wind capital. Other than spending time to bond with their allies, Gaara and Temari committed to a strict training regimen. Gaara, Temari and Naruto spent time after the morning workouts to practice their wind ninjutsu. This was one of their main focuses since Gaara couldn't exactly practice syncing with Shukaku within the confines of the fire capital. Everyone grouped together for afternoons and alternated sparring partners. The good thing about being on a training trip with so many high-ranking ninja was that there was no shortage of adequate sparring partners. As steel sharpens steel, so do A and S ranks sharpen one another. This was pretty much the only part of the day that Jiraiya was actually useful in, when he was present. The spars between Naruto and Jiraiya were a violent, yet cathartic, release. Thank Kami for auto-repair seals that were applied to the training ground. One of the cool things about Naruto's new summons was the fact that they fit in so well with open-minded people from Naruto's world. With the time dilation, Rimuru was more than happy to send his subordinates over to assist in Naruto's training trip. This meant that the Kijin and goblins got to spend time with Naruto, the Senju's and Kinji's family. Her Helmuth's silk robes, her unique recipes and other products of the Jura Tempest Federation were quick hits in the fire capital. It was also amazing to watch Shuna use holy magic in a world that was completely separated from magicules. Hikuro was summoned almost every other day for kenjutsu lessons. Sometimes he showed up with the Goblin Riders and provided a good force-on-force training session. Naruto was impressed that the Goblin Riders could keep up with low A rank shinobi, and he found Gobta's goofy antics fit right in with his prankster personality. Shien didn't come often because she was too attached to Rimuru, but when she did it almost always led to a destroyed training ground followed by an overconsumption of sake. In the first 3 months, the training group took on 15 missions varying from C to A rank. The first mission was accompanied by a sealing scroll that gave Naruto his Chunin vest. Itachi said that with all of the commotion he simply forgot to promote Naruto. The family laughed about this, and Naruto was officially a Chunin after 29 years of combined life. It provided a good round of laughter for those within the know, which was pretty much everyone except Jiraiya on the training trip. The missions were a necessity, and the training group would send people out in groups of 2 to complete them so as not to disrupt the overall training. The missions were constrained to the Land of Fire and were centered around the capital, which made it much quicker to complete the missions. Overall, the missions were a pain, but they didn't take too much away from the enjoyable experience. Turns out Enko was actually pregnant now. Much to Tsunade's consternation, Rias continued to use Naruto's body until it was official. Temari and Ino had come to peace with it, especially when they realized how much it meant to the altars. The happy lesbian couple made the sacrifice more than worth it by being the life of the party and keeping things spunky. Turns out, Rias also had an increased quota of sealing tags to make in return for the favor, but it was a necessity. They needed to keep their promises to Konoha and maintain their family businesses. Speaking of family, Himawari and Yosuke were now officially married by Kinji. They had a small, family wedding that included their friends from Wave. Himawari joined the family at the Senju compound in the capital and took over a motherly role in the family. Everyone enjoyed her calming presence and the opportunity to point of how a proper mother should act to Tsunade. It was truly amusing, and Himawari fit right into the rowdy family. Naruto's pet project at the current time was setting up a group teleportation seal. He wanted to create links and he was close to completing it. It would absolutely revolutionize travel through the elemental nations, and Tsunade agreed that it was worth a clone team working on it. It was a monumental challenge and Naruto, more specifically his clones, relished it. Another one of Naruto's pet projects was beating the emo out of Yami. It was a slow-going process and there was truly little progress to speak of. Yami seemed to have a crush on Shuna, funnily enough, but whenever she wasn't around, he was dispassionate and distant. He decided to remain separate and try to live his own life, but he lacked a purpose. Various members of the Senju family attempted to reach out and help him with mild success when it involved Rias. Finally, Naruto and Temari had gotten into a rhythm with their relationship. They were finally together, and their love was blooming strong. Temari was Naruto's strength and gave him a reason to fight every day. Her soft, sandy blonde hair, her lilac scent, her tender touch, the warmth she gave him every night, and a limitless list of things burned themselves into Naruto's soul once more and ignited his iron will. Naruto was able to stay in contact with Ino on most nights, and he was able to visit her 4 times during his time in the Fire Capital. He would pick her up in her room and then take her to the Namikaze or Senju compound or the waterfall cabin that he made. He kept his presence a secret from the villagers, otherwise there wouldn't be a point. He made the most of his days and nights with her, but there might be a problem. He would have to wait to be sure though. In the last week of Naruto's stay in the Fire Capital, he was given a mission to eliminate a bandit group that was hitting traveling caravans near the city. He went with Temari so that she could get some mission experience and revenue for Suna. After they made it to the city, they stayed in a hotel for the night. That didn't stop Naruto from taking Temari out to the casino nightlife to have some fun before they attended to their mission. At the casino, Naruto went around the casino with Temari playing games like craps, roulette and blackjack. Turns out that when Temari gambled in tandem with Naruto, she won too. They performed hit and runs on 6 casinos in Tanzakugai and left each casino before the pit bosses made their move. Temari was laughing, giggling, clinging and simply enjoying her night alone with her blonde stud. They ended the night with a bed-breaking couple of rounds of carnal pleasure that sent Temari into a blissful land of dreams. The next day, Naruto woke up and sent a clone to grab breakfast from a street vendor. He prepared a bath for Temari and scooped her into his arms and slid into the bath with her. She woke up to the warm water wrapped in the arms of her lover. After both blondes sent a silent thank you to Kami, they began catching up on things. "So, Ruto, did I tell you about Q and Mama?" Temari said as she snuggled back into Naruto's embrace, making the water swish idly between their bodies. "If some of the dreams I have been having lately are to be trusted, then I would say they are getting closer." Naruto took a guess. "Yup," Temari said cheerily, "they are actually really cute together. I saw them cuddling on the couch after we all went to bed. When I woke up to get a sip of water, I saw Q carrying her into her room. For a Biju, he really is a gentleman," Temari said like a gossiping fangirl. "Haha, it wasn't always that way. Did you know that the sage made the Biju to integrate with humanity? He wanted the Biju to work alongside us." Temari hummed lightly and trapped Naruto's arm under her breasts. "Not the way we currently are though. He never wanted his creations enslaved. The idea the sage had for the world and chakra was called Ninshu. He wanted to Biju to work with humans to use chakra to bring everyone together." Okay, so, what does that have to do with Kurama changing?" Naruto chuckled, "Haha, well, a side effect of syncing Biju and human was that the Biju became just a bit more human. Kurama has changed a lot, especially since I purified his chakra. He has mellowed out and, like me, he wants nothing more than to find a soulmate. He feels everything I feel when he is in the seal, and he told me he wanted to find the love that I held and hold for you and Ino." Temari moaned in understanding and contentedness. So, you would be happy with Q and Mama linking up." Temari could feel Naruto smirk into the back of her head. "Who do you think suggested it?" Temari gasped, broke out of his arms, spilled a bunch of water over the tub and looked him right in the eyes. "You. No way." Naruto laughed heartily. Hehe, Tsunade was the closest thing I had to family last time around. This time, she is literally my mother figure. Q is my best friend, my soul-bound partner and someone I trust implicitly. He is the only person I would ever trust mama with. Naruto finished with such pride and confidence that it stunned Temari once again. Then why did you let her hook up with my dad? I thought you wanted that. Temari asked sheepishly. Well, they were good for each other. Your dad is a good dude and I think under different circumstances it could have worked. However, we are due to be married, which would have made that more than a little weird, Naruto said while making a face. This made Temari giggle. Yeah, that would have been weird. Wait, Temari said with a scandalized gasp, which earned a confused look from Naruto. Are they, Naruto's confused look deepened. Are they going to use you for that too? Realization dawned on Naruto, and he had the decency to blush. Yeah, I dunno. An awkward silence settled over the tub and Naruto pulled Temari back into his embrace. She settled in with a final snuggle, appreciating his firm and toned body. Well, I guess there are weirder things in life. Haha, yeah, Naruto chuckled sheepishly. After eating breakfast, Naruto and Temari reached out to the point of contact and got the mission information. The bandits had struck 4 separate caravans all on different roads leading to or from Tanzaku-gai. Rather than bluster about or potentially let people know that Konoha shinobi were looking for the bandits, Naruto decided to go into Sage mode to locate their targets. As Naruto entered Sage mode, the familiar spreading of his senses overwhelmed him temporarily before he got it under control. He took a breath and calmed himself down before filtering out all of the unnecessary background information. As his senses extended past the city walls, he sensed something familiar and intriguing. It resonated with his chakra and Naruto focused in on it. As he continued to evaluate it, he realized that it was the Zetsu plant creature that had plagued him throughout the later years of his previous life. Naruto's eyebrows tilted downward, but that was the only show of frustration and anger that he made. He remembered that the Akatsuki used the plant creature as a scout, and he was their primary source of information. Naruto calmed himself, strengthened his link with Mother Nature and guided the forests to answer his call. Through the power of Senjutsu chakra, Naruto bent the forests to his will, and he found that his efforts paid off before his eyes snapped open. Zetsu was a plant-like creature composed of 2 parts. The first part was black, dark, sinister and considered itself the will of Madara. The second part, or the white half, was composed of a clone Madara constructed from Hashirama's cells. It was this part that Naruto resonated with and felt out. Normally, Zetsu's stealth was unparalleled and its connection with nature hid its chakra signature. Zetsu was more than confident in his stealth abilities, and he had detected the Kyuubi Jinchuriki and followed him to Tanzaku-gai. Zetsu settled into a monitoring position in the forests outside of the town and he was hoping to gain a bit of information on the boy's abilities. Zetsu knew where the bandit camp was, and he was simply going to follow the Senju boy and watch him handle the bandits. Zetsu felt peace overwhelm his white half as nature resonated with him in a more potent way than normal. The white half had its eye closed, and he was humming at the peaceful feel of nature when a wooden spike impaled the plant creature. Black Zetsu panicked at the sudden loss of its host and it panicked further when the one wooden spike exploded into 10 spikes that shredded and impaled the white Zetsu body. Before the creature could be absorbed, Black Zetsu wriggled off of the white body like some parasite and ordered the white body to create a clone. A spore appeared on the side of the white body that wasn't impaled yet and formed into a new white body for it to use. The black parasite crawled up and integrated into the new white body when his danger senses went haywire. He turned to see the Kyuubi Jinchuriki darting toward him from across the clearing. Black Zetsu immediately controlled the clone to phase into the tree and escape. Naruto shouted in frustration, but he wasn't left empty-handed. He looked at the skewered white body that was oozing green liquid with a sense of contempt as memories of these monsters threatened to overwhelm him. Temari chased after Naruto, who was much faster than her. He had darted off without explaining anything and the sudden shift to serious mode prickled Temari's anxiety. Temari caught up with Naruto and saw the white Zetsu impaled by his Mokuton. She snarled as the creature inspired memories of the war and all of the losses that came with it. She saw Naruto trapped in memories of the past and her concern for her fiancé overrode all the negative emotions she was feeling. She wrapped Naruto into a hug and began whispering sweet nothings into his ear. Naruto was once again brought back to reality by a loved one. The memories suddenly receded, and he leaned into Temari's embrace. After a minute, clarity returned to his mind, and he pulled out a stasis scroll to seal the corpse. If Tsunade had the knowledge in advance this time around, then maybe they could come up with an effective countermeasure. At the very least, this was the main body of White Zetsu, and it should be a crippling blow to the plant creature. Naruto and Temari easily located and destroyed the bandit camp. The bandits didn't even take the duo 10 minutes to deal with, even though they needed to exercise restraint to save 3 girls that had been captured. Within half an hour of arriving at the bandit camp, everything of value was sealed up, the women were healed and dressed, and they were returning to Tanzaku-gai. Rather than spend another night in the town, Naruto and Temari sped back to the capital to share their new discovery with their family. Unknown location, Akatsuki meeting. Pain was alerted by Zetsu's arrival, and he immediately called a meeting after Zetsu informed him of what happened. Pain immediately called a meeting and informed the group of what was going on. Not being able to tail the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was going to inhibit their goal. Pain was tempted to go and capture the boy himself, but his body wasn't exactly mobile, and the organization was aware that the boy was on a training trip. Then what are we supposed to do, If we can't follow the boy, and he has the Aikibi with him, then what are we supposed to do? A boisterous blonde asked the group. We kill everyone and offer them to Jashin. A maniacal man with a 3-bladed scythe said. That would be unwise. Hizashi added his 2 cents with his eyes closed in contemplation. Explain, Hizashi. Pain said. Hizashi collected his thoughts for a bit. He really detested helping this group, but it was necessary to earn their trust. We don't focus on the hard targets. We consolidate our forces, establish our foundation, then we put pressure on the so-called Great Five until they are forced to concede. They will not risk annihilation for the simple price of a Jinchuriki. That's no fun. I came here to fight strong opponents. A blue, shark-faced man said. A blue-haired woman leaned toward Pain and whispered something to him, which earned a nod from the man with ringed eyes. Hizashi is right. At this point, we risk everything if we unite the world against us. We will focus on getting Iwa under our thumb. A hunched-back man grunted, then what will we do to gather information? Your spy network will need to be directed toward Fire Country. I do not want Zetsu in the forests near the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. We will focus on Kumo, Kiri and Taki. Not even the Kyuubi Jinchuriki will be able to resist us when we have all the other Biju under our control. Sunagakure 3 months and 3 weeks into training trip. After saying goodbye to Kinji and thanking him for his hospitality, the Senju family moved toward Sunagakure for the next stage of the training trip. Naruto left Kinji with the mission to get the civilian council under control and to look for people that would want to be a part of the new Uzu. The second task would be on the low since nobody was looking to create new enemies as Iwa ramped up its war preparations. Madame Shijimi also returned to Konoha to keep a closer eye on things there. Her role was to sniff out dissenters and eliminate any influence that Kaharu and Homura had over the civilian population. They arrived to fanfare from the people of Sunagakure. They were grateful to have the Guardian of Suna and the Senju Saviors back. Naruto and Tsunade cringed at the new title they were given, but they tolerated it. They noticed that Sunagakure had patches of green all over the city, the temperature within the city hovered around 75 degrees and the city was livelier than ever. Naruto was happy to see that all his efforts had brought Suna into an age of prosperity. He honestly felt like he owed it to the one hidden village that always had his back. Raza welcomed the group back with open arms and he actually hugged Gaara and Temari when they walked into his office. After getting the formal talks out of the way, the first thing the Subaku and Senju families did was go visit the tomb of Granny Chio. More than a few tears were shed as everyone thanked the old lady for her sacrifice. Flowers decorated the tomb, and it was clear that the people of Suna cared for all Granny Chio had done for their village. At the Subaku estate, they enjoyed a festive dinner before moving to the pool that now occupied one of the family's previous training grounds. They were catching up and sharing their observations of the new and improved Sunagakure. Raza was there with them, but he was cuddling up next to Pakura. Every once in a while, Naruto could see him cast a sidelong glance at Tsunade and Q. So, Ruto, I know everyone here except these two. Care to introduce us? Raza asked as he sat with his feet in the pool. Naruto, who was floating on a pool inflatable cuddling with Temari, beckoned Yami and Kokuo over. Kokuo was a massive man, looked to be in his mid-30s, with blue hair and a rounded face. Papa Raza, this is Yami, I think you met him when he shattered the barrier. This one here with blue hair is Kokuo, better known as the Five Tails. Raza spit out the drink he was sipping and Pakura spat out a scorching cloud in surprise. Ruto, Pete, please explain. Naruto laughed and Temari giggled before she pushed him off the inflatable and into the water. Naruto surfaced, shook out his hair and swam over next to Raza. Calm down, everything is okay for now. Yami emerged when I watched Temari die in front of me. I am sure I don't need to explain that one any further. Raza placed a comforting hand on his shoulder and Naruto continued. As for Kokuo, I sensed him when I was in sage mode. After feeling it out, I realized that I could pull his energy into my seal. It took a while, but we made it work. Raza facepalmed and slowly dragged his hand down his face. Naruto, you shouldn't be casually sharing that information. Naruto shrugged, why not? I trust you implicitly and if Pakura is good by you then she is good by me. When did you get back in town Pakura? Pakura smiled at the boy she had only met a time or two. Well, after the rebels took the city, I didn't see the need to stick around in Kiri. Mei says hi by the way. She really wants to meet you. Temari growled as she paddled her floaty over. Tell that hussy to keep her hands off my Ruto. Naruto smirked at Temari. Sure, he remembered how beautiful Mei was and how she was always on the prowl for a boyfriend, but she was too old for him. She must be in her late 20s by this point. Naruto pulled the floaty over to him and tipped it. Temari squealed as she tumbled into the pool. She surfaced from under the water with her four buns looking limp and lifeless. She growled at Naruto and slugged him in the shoulder, which earned a round of chuckles from the group. Relax Mari, you are my girl. Mei is beautiful but I have no need for any more beauty. Between you and Ino my heart is full and content. Naruto said as smoothly as he could muster. Raza smirked before chirping in a childish tone, oh, don't forget Anko, Himawari, Tsunade and I am sure others. Naruto splashed Raza in the face while Temari crossed her arms in a pout. My alters are their own. They don't count when it comes to my love life. It was Pakura's turn to smirk. Oh, so Anko and Himawari's children have no biological link to you. Oh, go fuck yourselves. Naruto exclaimed exasperatedly before he submerged himself under the water to escape their teasing. Naruto surfaced with a more serious look on his face and an idea to change the topic of conversation. Alright, down to business, how is the temperature barrier working for Suna? Any complications? Raza put his drink down and sat up straighter. The people love it, our merchants love it and our visitors love it. It also makes it easier to sustain plant life. While you are here, we are going to expand Suna again and create some farmland within the walls. Will you be able to expand the barrier? Naruto thought for a bit, that is a big project to get done in 3 months. You will need to set the new perimeter, I will need to reconfigure the power source and we will need a lot of earth users to bury the sand and bring up more fertile soil. Raza nodded, yes, that is all planned for. We are going to create another spout for the reservoir on the south side of the village and extend the walls there out. Gaara and you should be more than enough to move and adjust the walls on that side. Gaara can clear the sand and you can create the farms. Treating me like a draft horse, Naruto muttered and earned a round of laughter. Temari beamed and jumped on Naruto's back. Well, my love, just imagine what we can do with all of that money. Naruto twisted his head and cocked an eyebrow at Temari. Sweetheart, we have more money than we know what to do with. Temari smirked down at him, oh really? You have enough to cover the resurrection of New Uzu. I didn't know we were that rich. Naruto shrugged, I don't know about that. Uncle Kinji isn't even going to send the scouting group until we go when we return to Wave. From there, it will take years to get enough people on the island. Not to mention, I will need to deal with the Akatsuki and Iwa before I can settle down in Uzu. Pakura was confused, so she decided to ask her question. Aren't you a Konoha shinobi? Are they just going to let you go to Uzushio? Naruto looked sad for a moment before his eyes firmed and he resolved himself. Yeah, I am. However, I am also the rightful daimyo of Whirlpool Country, which takes precedence over any contractual obligation to Konoha. When push comes to shove, I can leave whenever I please. The only reason I haven't done so already is because I really don't feel like making an enemy of Konoha. I could never raise my hand against my friends. Raza placed a comforting hand on Naruto's shoulder. We have your back, kiddo. When the time comes, let me know what you need for new Uzu. It will be a fun project. Tsunade was cuddled into Kurama as they watched the spectacle from across the pool. It was only weird when she really stopped to think about it, but when they were like this it just seemed natural. What do you think, Q? Kurama turned his head down and smiled. Well, I think the kid is doing the best he can with the hand he was dealt. There isn't exactly a book on what to do when you have MPD, and they each have their own lives. How about you? Tsunade grunted, downed a drink and then whispered something inaudible. Kurama tickled her side and prompted her to say it again. Well, with my youth back I want a kid or two. I don't think that is possible between you and I. Kurama sighed internally but stayed strong on the exterior. He pulled her into him. I would be lying if I said I didn't want some kids of my own. For centuries we have existed and for centuries us Biju have never been able to experience love. It is only because of Naruto that I even have this chance. Neither of them wanted to say what they each knew needed to be said. It was extremely awkward to think about and even more difficult to say out loud. They just sat in a contented state in each other's arms and watched the night's fun. Tsunade watched Hikari play with some young teens from Suna and smiled. Hikari was the only one that truly felt like a child amongst her crazy family. The time in Suna was actually more like a work vacation for the Senju training group. The days started with CrossFit, which was actually now a standard for the Suna forces. After CrossFit, Naruto did a round of morning spars and training with the group before he headed out to fulfill jobs that had stacked up for Raza. Suna was in a booming era and Raza had more than enough funds to afford the Senju family. His people appreciated each and every project that the Senjus completed because almost every project made life in the desert significantly better. Naruto always finished up his jobs in time for evening CrossFit, after which he had an hour of meditation and then he used the nights to work on his projects. Naruto had surpassed his previous mastery of the wind element, his water element was difficult to practice in Suna and his earth element was finally catching up to the other two. His control over each element was at cage level and it really came down to him mastering his jutsus and understanding how to apply them in combat situations. Naruto could now stand toe-to-toe with Tsunade, Kurama and Kokuo. Tsunade and Naruto needed to go way out into the desert whenever they wanted a spar in Sage mode, and it was always a supremely destructive display. They garnered crowds whenever they did it because it was exceptionally rare for shinobi to be able to witness such high-level combat. Naruto learned to fear Tsunade's Senju in her Sage mode, but he developed something that was quite interesting to deal with her. Naruto's answer to preventing Tsunade from turning him into a splatter of blood was development of a new jutsu. Naruto's body in Sage mode was already resilient, but Tsunade's strength was crippling when she was able to land a blow. Thus, Naruto created Mokuten, wood armor jutsu, in response to the problem. Naruto was able to focus his Mokuten chakra into wooden plate armor that took the form of light armor all over his body. Naruto still preferred speed over being a tank, so the light armor variant was his preferred version of this jutsu. If he needed to be more tanky, then he would simply use the wood dragon or wood golem rather than encase himself in the armor. On that note, Naruto was struggling to complete the legendary jutsus of his grandfather. There was something he was missing about it and Hashirama's notes only referred to it as enlightenment. The notes described Hashirama's use of senjutsu to reach a state of enlightenment when he truly became one with nature and he was able to mold the earth's energy to his will. Naruto had failed to attain this state and the family seemed to think it was because of his fractured personalities and damage to his soul. Naturally, Naruto told everyone he wouldn't give up on this and he would surpass his great-grandfather by the end of the training trip. Naruto noticed that Jiraiya made a concerted effort to make himself scarce during the training trip thus far. He could feel his grandfather's emotions and knew that it was because of Kurama and Tsunade's relationship. He didn't blame his godfather for feeling this way, but if Naruto was honest, it was almost entirely his fault. Don't get him wrong, Naruto held love in his heart for Jiraiya and he had come much closer to forgiving the man, but the memories of Jiraiya's actions in Konoha still bothered Naruto. The Toad Sannin did break into the Senju family though. It was tough for people to hate on the pervert when he was just being himself and not constantly ranting about Konoha. He was a vibrant guy that brought laughs and smiles with him. Furthermore, he was actually a good trainer, and he was one of the few people, that weren't one of Naruto's alters, that could actually bounce ideas for Fuinjutsu with Naruto. It was because of Jiraiya that Naruto was closer to making his teleportation platforms. It was still a logistical nightmare. But it was a pet project that Naruto shared with Jiraiya. Time in Suna moved far too quickly. The 3 months evaporated faster than water in the desert sun and he was sad to see it go. Temari and Gaara were so happy to be with their family again and it was a struggle to leave the city they loved. They realized it was necessary because of the increased border friction on the Iwa border. Skirmishes were now a weekly occurrence and Raza wanted Gaara to become strong enough to not only protect Suna but all of Wind Country. As for Temari, Raza wanted her to continue her relationship with Naruto and grow her prowess with the wind. Raza could tell how much stronger Temari had gotten, and he was more than confident that Temari would reach rank by the end of the training trip so long as she committed to her training. Kankuro learned firsthand how much stronger his sister had gotten when she literally shredded his 20 practice puppets in 2 moves. The Sickle Wind Net and the Weasel Wind Blade were truly terrifying and Temari was able to cast those 2 jutsu with her tiny sensu fans. Whenever Temari broke out the big fan, people ran for cover knowing that a sandstorm was soon to follow. The group left Suna nearly 7 months into their training trip. Their next destination was Wave Country, but Naruto had a pit stop scheduled before they made it to Wave. This was a risky move and there was significant dissension within the family in regard to this decision. That being said, Naruto still insisted on attempting to contact Nagato. Since AIM bordered Suna, Naruto wanted to take a route through the northern deserts toward the AIM border, create an army of wood clones and then send said army to get Nagato's attention. Thus, a week after leaving Suna, the Senju family was along the northern border of Wind Country and Rain Country. Naruto pulled on Kurama's chakra to supplement his own and then he created a literal army of wood clones. The clones were to avoid engaging the AIM shinobi, but Naruto knew this likely meant the clones would be constantly attacked by AIM shinobi. The army of 300 wood clones was told to try talking first and they were to avoid killing at all costs. As the clone army marched into AIM, Naruto and the training group broke off and turned toward Wave. It didn't take long for the clones to encounter the first bit of resistance. As 4 AIM shinobi were tied up and paralyzed, the clones continued marching forward with the tied-up ninjas carried over their shoulder. It took 4 more groups of AIM shinobi being disabled and tied up before anything meaningful happened. Halt! State your business in AIM and release your captives. An AIM Jonin shouted. One clone stepped forward and addressed the Jonin. Hiya, I need you to go get Lord Pain and Lady Angel. Tell them that we wish to talk. You will get your captives back after that. The AIM Jonin scoffed, and why should we trust you? We could return with reinforcements and destroy you. The clone picked his ear at the Jonin's shout. Look, guy, we are clones that were sent in as messengers to talk to the leaders of AIM. Trust me, if we wanted to kill you, we could. Lord Pain is the only reason we are here, so why don't you just go tell him that Naruto Uzumaki wants to talk to him? The Jonin discussed it with his team and 2 of the ninjas broke off and darted toward AIM. The clones sat down knowing that it would be at least a day for Nagato to get there. The 2 remaining AIM shinobi maintained a watch position over the group of clones who all seemed to be sitting down and meditating. The swell of natural energy put on quite the show for the growing crowd of AIM ninjas that were now surrounding the clone army. The clones made no move to address their new adversaries, they simply sat and meditated inside a newly grown grove of trees. It took Pain and Lady Angel 28 hours to respond to Naruto's clones and they approached warily on a paper bird. The orange-haired man with black piercings, Rinnegan eyes and an Akatsuki cloak dropped down from the bird and walked toward the Naruto clones. Kyuubi Jinchuriki, state your reason for entering my country. Pain said monotonously. Ah, cousin, why don't we have this conversation in private? Please invite Lady Angel in to join the conversation. I am aware that you could destroy us all easily, so please afford a distant cousin this courtesy. The clone representative said as he grew a wooden house. Pain's eyebrows shot into his brow before they wrinkled in confusion. This boy knew too much and he didn't need his followers knowing his true identity. Pain looked up into the sky to see Lady Angel flying over the clones with her paper wings. She gave him a brief nod before she descended and accompanied Pain into the wooden house. The clone representative walked calmly into the house and joined Pain. As the clone entered, it created a round table and 3 chairs in the empty house. It sat down first and was followed shortly thereafter by Pain and Lady Angel. An awkward silence settled on the room before the clone flipped through hand signs and applied a privacy barrier over the house. Conan fidgeted when she saw the clone weaving hand signs, but she relaxed when she saw it was just for a privacy barrier. "Now, Kyuubi Jinchuriki, tell me why you have summoned me," Pain said firmly in his usual monotone. The clone shrugged nonchalantly. There was something comical about a clone being in a life or death situation. They simply didn't care. "Well, Nagato Uzumaki, I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. I would appreciate it if you called me by my name rather than my status as a container of the Kyuubi no Kitsune." Conan took an aggressive stance, and a furious look encompassed her visage when the clone simply smirked at her. "How do you know his identity?" "Oh, please, Lady Angel, or Conan of Omegacore, relax. We are adults here having a civil conversation and the fake Madara can't listen in through this barrier." The clone couldn't suppress its laugh at the stunned looks on the face of Nagato and Conan. Eventually, Pain recomposed himself and spoke in a firm tone. "You seem to know much more than you are supposed to." The clone shrugged before responding, "Meh, well I guess you could say this isn't my first rodeo. Unfortunately, I am forbidden from telling you how I acquired my information. Some lady really likes her entertainment." Silence and confused looks now adorned both Akatsuki members' faces, so the clone continued. "Look, cousin, I know your story and I know why you are doing what you are doing. Believe it or not, you and I shared the same master at one point. What I wanted to ask you is this: why are you following the instructions of Obito Uchiha?" Silence. Pure, all-encompassing silence as Conan's breathing halted and she remained sitting in a motionless state. The Pain body was likewise stuck trying to process the information. The clone simply waited for their reply with his eyes closed. "Naruto, why are you sharing this information with me?" Pain asked cautiously. The clone's eyes opened and twinkled with mirth. "Well, cousin, I wish I could share it with you, but we all know this isn't your real body." The clone paused here and took great enjoyment on the gobsmacked looks of his adversaries. "As to why I am sharing it with you, I would say it is because you and I share a common dream. However, your methods will lead to the end of the world and mine are far from perfect." "What do you know of my dream?" Pain answered, refusing to play the clone's game. "I know you fight for world peace. I know your organization started so that no more children in AIM would be subjected to your childhood. You wish to stop the pointless wars and use the Biju to create an ultimate weapon to basically hold the world hostage." "How?" was Conan's stunned addition to the conversation. The clone shrugged. "I already told you that I am not going to share how I attained my information. I need only look at your reactions to know that I am right. As for this body, Yahiko, if my memory serves me, he was your friend. You lost your way when he died, didn't you, cousin?" Nagato was getting accustomed to being stunned. He was able to shake it off much quicker this time, but it was still quite unsettling that one of his targets knew so much about him. "You know too much, Naruto. Yes, this is Yahiko, one of my paths. Yes, my goals changed when my best friend died. What do you wish to obtain through this conversation? Boss wants you to pull your head out of your ass. The cycle of hatred cannot be broken by creating more pain and hatred. Pain is a part of life, but it is not the point of living. My boss wanted me to ask you this: do you know what will happen when you put all 9 Biju into the Ghetto Mazo?" The clone replied, enjoying the word games as it danced through the conversation. Conan and Pain were both silent again, stuck in contemplation. Finally, Pain answered, "We will create a weapon stronger than any other. We will use that weapon to end all wars in order to lead the world into an era of peace." The clone made a buzzer sound. "Wrong. When you put all 9 Biju into the Ghetto Mazo, which is actually the Jubi's husk, then the Jubi will be reborn. Since you are not the owner of the Rinnegan, you will be unable to control the Jubi and it will rampage out of control." The clone held up its hand to stop the questions or retorts. That is if Obito doesn't betray you first. He wants to put the whole world in an infinite Tsukuyomi, an eternal illusion. The details don't matter because both courses lead to the end of the world, trust me, I know. Conan was silent and Pain's face was screwed into an apoplectic state. There were so many questions, so many fine details that Pain didn't even know that it made it almost impossible to decide which question to ask first. Naruto, how are we supposed to trust you? Why would our enemy share this information with us? It isn't making any sense. The clone sighed, look, as I said, I can't tell you how. I can tell you why though. Like you, I wish to create a peaceful world and guide it into a new era. As for trusting me, you can look into Obito Uchiha and the Zetsu creature. I am sure the Zetsu is still upset about being stabbed by Mother Nature, hee. Anyway, I am sharing this with you because you are Uzumaki. Family above all, always and forever. I am trying to wake my cousin up before he reaches the point of no return. Then why invite me? Conan asked, still struggling to process all of the information herself. Because you are important to Nagato. You two have been together since you were mere children, and you were both trained by my grandfather. The clone answered. Another bomb just dropped. The Akatsuki duo just realized this was the grandson of Jiraiya. Pain visibly shook his head in frustration. What would you have me do? I can't give up on my dream. Pain cried out in frustration through Yahiko's body. The clone held its hands up in a disarming manner. Look, I know I dropped a lot on you both. Take some time to think on it. Take a better look at what your organization is doing with power that could actually be used for the good of the world. I am not asking you to give up on your dream, cousin. I am offering you a different way. Have you not kept track of all of the changes I am making around the world? Am I not slowly making the world a better place? Would you continue stubbornly on your path rather than join me? These are not questions I want you to answer right now. Take time, think and then find a way to contact me. While you are doing that, watch me change this world. Pain and Conan nodded, very well. I will do that. I will watch you cousin and when the time comes, we will see whose ideals will win out. That wasn't really the point, but I guess. Look, I am going to dispel and let boss know what we talked about. I know you have a lot to think about, so try not to end the world before I can fix it. Ya nah. The clone waved enthusiastically before phasing into the wooden floor and dispelling. Outside, the rest of the wood clones sank into the ground and left a vibrant patch of grass and a grove of sakura trees in their wake. Nagato and Conan stayed seated for a prolonged period of silence. It was truly an overwhelming conversation, and it was much too much to think about at the current time. Do you think we can trust him, Conan? Pain said in an unsure whisper. Conan sighed, I hope so, Nagato. You know I have never trusted Madara. I think we try to confirm some of this information to see if the rest of it can be trusted. Land of Waves 7 months into the training trip. Home sweet home. The Land of Waves truly felt like a home for the Senju family. Sure, it helped that they were practically worshipped as heroes and saviors. Sure, it probably helped that they had an amazing seaside villa and a bunch of businesses in the town. Sure, it helped that nobody there preached to them about their duties or obligations. Overall, it was honestly refreshing and the whole family felt a sense of peace wash over them in the wave country. The biggest thing happening at this point was that Himawari was close to her due date. Tsunade placed her due date roughly 3 weeks from their arrival and Himawari was being waited on hand and foot by the Senju family. Tsunade was ecstatic to welcome the first genuine addition to the Senju family in 14 years. The alters were excited because this was going to be their trial run for living truly independent and happy lives. Enko was now 6 months pregnant and not far behind. The only one in Konoha that knew this was Itachi, since it was agreed upon that Enko's pregnancy would be hidden from the council. Rias was energetic and dedicated to pulling her weight in the family since she wanted to start gaining a sense of independence from Naruto. Thus far, the family had operated as a very small, successful communist community, as families should be, but Rias was set on at least living in her own home and paying for that. Tsunade agreed to the alters being independent, but she demanded that they live in the villa and that they would each get their own homes in the Senju compound in Konoha. It wasn't to deny them independence, but it was primarily for security. Senju babies, especially Senju babies that contained Naruto's DNA, were going to be very high-risk babies. Nobody argued that fact and the whole family was on board. Yosuke was set as the head of security for both compounds, and he was going to be given funds in order to beef up security. He took the role super personally and seriously since his child was to be the first one. He had tried to get Tsunade drunk multiple times and pry the gender of his child out of her with no luck. To make matters worse, Tsunade gleefully ratted him out to Himawari each time he did it, which earned Yosuke a brief stay in an icicle each time. Overall, Yosuke had set into a comfortable role in the family, and he was content to keep playing the part. Another thing about being in Wave was Shizune being in a state of total bliss and contentment. She was engaged to York and their wedding was planned 1 month from now. They had sent invites to their friends in Konoha and Suna, and they were going to host it at the Seaside Senju Resort, one of their businesses in Wave. Tsunami managed the property for Tsunade, and she had done a lot to make it the premier hotel in Wave Country. Thus, upon arriving in Wave, Shizune ordered 10 shadow clones from Naruto to help her get everything set up just the way she wanted it. Between making preparations for the baby and preparing for the wedding, the first month in Wave flew by. As the group from Konoha was arriving in Wave, Himawari was taken into a delivery room in the Senju Memorial Hospital. Tsunade's clinic had garnered enough money and doctors wanting to study under Tsunade's banner that they were able to build a hospital while the Senju family was in Konoha. Thus, the hospital staff was running around in an absolute panic while many citizens of Wave hosted a vigil outside the hospital in honor of Himawari and the Senju family. Holy snap! Can you guys believe this? Kiba exclaimed and earned a yip from Akamaru as they departed from the bridge and moved toward the bustling city. Damn straight, pup. This is impressive, Sume exclaimed while Hana hid behind the 3 Heimaru triplets. Chusa whistled as he walked behind his family. It's like Suna. This is a whole new country after the Senju family settled in. It's too troublesome to think about. Last time I was in Think Country it was just a small, third-world village. Not this, Shikaku added, truly lamenting the fact that the civilians of Konoha were so dead set on driving the Senjus out of Konoha. Dear, how is this possible? It can't all be the Senjus, Yoshino asked as she hiked her purse up further on her shoulder. Mom, Naruto can make an army without sweating and each of his clones has his knowledge of seals. It is a bother to say this, but you can see most of the houses are clearly made from his Mokuten and the bigger buildings are made with steel and concrete. Not to mention we went through 5 different barriers on that bridge. It's bothersome, but it is pretty clear that this is the work of Naruto. Shikamaru said dully. Yup, that's my Ruto. Ino exclaimed and her father growled, which made Ino shuffle behind Lena. Inoichi's face turned dark at the mention of Naruto's name. He was going to wring that brat's neck when he saw him. He started muttering and growling, which earned curious looks from everyone in the group. Ms. Ino, why is your father being so unyouthful? Lee asked awkwardly, making the whole group groan at his obvious lack of social awareness. Guy, seeing the error his student made, pulled on his mask of youthfulness and amped it up to 11. Yosh, Lee, if I cannot make Inoichi laugh in the next hour, then I will swim 10 laps around Wave Country. Lee's eyes bulged and turned into giant bug eyes before he pumped a fist in the air. Yosh, Guy-sensei, if I cannot help you complete your task, then I will join you for your most youthful swim. If I cannot complete the swim, then I will run to Konoha and back 5 times. The whole group watched the display with a mix of horror and amusement. It all ended when Lena saw the sunset of youth, which actually blended in with the background of Wave Country, and she begged Inoichi to make it stop. The hilarious display from his wife and the pleading looks from the members of the Konoha group made Inoichi chuckle. This in turn earned dual fists in the air from Guy and Lee. Wonder what's going on over there? Neji said as he pointed to about 200 people sitting on lawn chairs and beach towels on the beach in front of a 5-story building with a big red cross on it. Oh, that's Mama's hospital. Ino squealed in delight while jumping up and down. Let's go check it out. The group followed Ino over to the hospital while listening to the excited chatter. Terms like Lady of Wave, Snow Princess, and Senju Prince were being whispered excitedly in between groups of people holding candles. The group began talking amongst themselves with a growing feeling that they were missing something big. It was Inoichi that went to talk to a friendly family waiting on the beach and he came back slightly pale. The kids were excited, but the adults were dreading the information they were stumbling on and the implications for Konoha. Well, the council isn't going to like this, was the first thing Inoichi said to the group. The Senju family is having a baby with a local from Wave. Duh daddy. I told you about Himawari already, Ino said blankly. That's not the point, Ino. Shikaku said sullenly. This is going to be so damn troublesome. Speaking of troublesome, some of the hospital staff were temporarily regretting their decision to move to Wave and work at a hospital that Tsunade was in charge of. The overprotective great-grandmother, ow. Tsunade, stop. You can't reach out of the laptop and smack the author. Ow. Stop. Okay fine, just please stop. Ahem, the overprotective mama was running the staff ragged. According to her, the standards had fallen, and they weren't living up to her expectations. In reality, Tsunade was just heckling them like a mother hen because Himawari and Yosuke had kicked her out of the room. This left Naruto playing pacifier for his sister-in-law, Yosuke and Tsunade. He wasn't a stranger to the role, but it did get exhausting. Luckily, it served as a distraction from Naruto's thoughts. It was always and will always be weird to think that the term uncle and father would be interchangeable in his crazy family. Launching himself into the distraction, Naruto jumped in front of a bag of saline that was tossed at a doctor that questioned Tsunade. The bag splattered in slow motion and Naruto watched each drop of salinized water splashed all over the waiting area of the hospital. Yosuke watched on in horrified amusement as the bag impacted Naruto's head. He watched the ripples spread through his cheeks, the slow and forced turn of his head, the splaying of his arms to regain balance and the blonde locks that swayed dangerously to one side of his head due to the momentum. Yosuke cringed as the saline bag transferred enough momentum for Naruto to tumble into the wall. His cringe turned to a wry smile as the doctor ran for his life pleading for mercy. Then Yosuke's head snapped toward the door as Shizune stepped out of the room and beckoned him into the room. The antics between Tsunade and Naruto instantly halted as the two comically froze in place. They remained frozen for minutes until Yosuke came out with a massive smile on his usually stoic face. He called for Naruto and Tsunade before he held up a stop hand as the rest of the alters tried rushing into the room as well. Naruto smirked at Hikari, Rias, Yami, Kokuo and Kurama before he turned and walked into the room to meet his nephew, son, whatever he's not going to think about his nephew like that anymore. Tsunade froze in a gasp as a beautiful baby girl swathed in pink rested peacefully on Himawari's chest. Naruto peeked over her shoulder and smiled contentedly as he looked at the small bundle on the beautiful Ice Kunoichi's bare chest. He darted over to Yosuke and slapped a brotherly arm on his shoulder. He leaned into his ear and whispered something into his ear, ignoring the tears that were beginning to fall freely. I am so happy for you, Suke. I will always be here for your family. Yosuke turned into the arm, tears falling freely from his warrior eyes. Tsunade smiled at the visage of an early 20s, slightly more serious, version of Hashirama. She watched the touching and unique scene with a peaceful smile on her face before she patted the two of them on the back and went to pick up the chart for the mother and baby. She talked to Shizune about the health of the mother-baby duo while the bros had a bromance. After Tsunade held the baby girl for a moment, she asked, "So, what is this blue-eyed black-haired beauty's name?" Himawari smiled tiredly, "Suya Yukihana Senju, in honor of your mother." Tsunade clasped both of her hands over her mouth as tears began to fall in trickles from her eyes. Naruto and Yosuke placed supportive hands on her shoulders as she continued to hold the baby girl named after her mother, daughter of Hashirama. Tsunade looked up to the sky and thanked Kami for such a great blessing in her life. Up in Kami's realm, Kushina was running around screaming her head off in joy while crying happily. Minato watched on amused and swore that he saw a single, happy tear fall from Kami's eye. He took another look at the monitor and smiled as he saw his first successor of sorts, before he turned and prostrated himself to Kami. "Thank you for bestowing such a wondrous blessing on my family, Lady Kami." Kami scoffed, "Oh Minato, don't ruin the moment by being all serious. Just watch your son and his family." Kami squealed as she watched Naruto hold his nephew. She never could have guessed that her little experiment would provide her with so much high-quality entertainment. Seriously, Korean dramas had nothing on this show. You almost done Kushi. The redhead stopped running for a moment before she dashed toward Kami and wrapped her in a hug. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This was so worth it. Cammy chuckled, yes, it has been a good start to a new cycle. Back at the hospital, the civilians and shinobi of Wave let out a mighty cheer when Yosuke, flanked by Naruto and Tsunade, held his baby girl up for the people of Wave to see. The group from Konoha cheered with those from Wave as they saw Naruto smiling next to Yosuke. Naruto had a gigawatt smile on his face with his eyes closed as he offered up a thank you to Cammy. Back in Konoha, Jiraiya just hopped into the window of the Hokage office. Itachi was talking with his Anbu commander, Shisui, and his mother. Jiraiya joined the conversation with a goofy grin on his face. Hey there, Lord Hokage, are you guys going to Wave tomorrow? He asked cheerily. Itachi cocked an eyebrow before replying, Jiraiya, I want to go but the job won't let me. I am sending Shisui and my mother in my place. What has you in such a good mood? Jiraiya waved to Shisui and Makoto before turning back to Itachi. Oh, well, I am finally not on the Senju shitlist. It only took 7 months, but worth it. Itachi sighed, okay, well, how is the training going? Jiraiya belted out a laugh, are you telling me you couldn't hear the desert battles from here? I know our intelligence is good enough that you have gotten reports. Makoto looked confused and spoke up, desert battles between who? Tsunade and Naruto. Itachi deadpanned. Makoto adopted a look of understanding now, oh, okay, wow. That's impressive. Jiraiya waved a, no, finger at her, no, Makoto, you don't understand. They have reshaped square miles of desert in their battles. Tsunade with her sage mode can go blow for blow with the kid. Naruto beats me at this point, so does Haim. To put it in perspective, when Tsunade managed to land a punch on Naruto, he got flung over 2 miles and landed in a crater that was 20 feet deep and 50 feet wide. Then the kid hopped back up and flashed back to her and sent her flying over a mile. Then, Earth and Wood Dragons fought like some medieval adventure novel. They actually started selling tickets and had crowds of spectators. The whole room was stunned into silence, mouths agape as Jiraiya relayed tales of the spars. Finally, Itachi recomposed himself. Cough. Okay, what about the others? Jiraiya smirked, going to be S rank soon. Gaara is above S rank in the desert, but he should be able to handle himself well enough on any terrain that isn't water. Temari is approaching Naruto in her wind ninjutsu proficiency, even though her reserves won't let her throw them out left and right. Enko is preggers and no longer training. Shizune reminds me of Tsunade, except change out the super strength for poison. Shisui stepped in here, are you saying that whole group could fight Itachi and I on equal footing? Jiraiya brought a hand to his chin in a thinking pose, what are your seals set at Shisui? 50, 200, level 5. Shisui answered. Okay, well then you are on the lower end of our group. Don't get me wrong, your use of Shunshin or the Mangekyo would take Temari and Shizune down a peg. They are both support-style fighters. Temari is at 75, 300, level 6 Shisui. Jiraiya finished with a taunting smirk at Shisui. Itachi coughed, embarrassed that his seals were lower than his student's fiancé. 75 pounds per limb and 300 pounds on the chest. And in level 6 resistance. Jiraiya nodded with a shite-eating grin on his face. Fuck. Itachi Uchiha. You will watch your mouth. Makoto chided sternly. Yes mother, sorry mother, Itachi said with a bowed head. Well, I am off to grab sensei. Jiraiya said, about to climb out of the window. Are you sure that is a good idea, Jiraiya? Itachi asked cautiously and explained further at Jiraiya's curious look. From what I have heard, the Land of Waves is like the Senju's home. Are you sure he won't cause another incident? Jiraiya sighed, if he ever wants to make amends then he will let it go. I will let you know this, Itachi. Kinji is dead set on Naruto re-establishing Uzu and merging the islands. He wants the boy to claim Wave, and I am 100% sure that they will readily agree. Jiraiya raised a hand to stop a retort. Look, he will stay here for a while. He will be an ally. But, Jiraiya smashed his fist into the window frame, if the damned council continues to attempt to control him, then they will make an enemy out of the Senju family. Get them under control, Itachi. With that, Jiraiya leapt out the window. 1 week later, Land of Waves. Ino sighed as she woke up on the morning of the wedding to see her dad standing over the bed that held her, Naruto and Temari. The scowl on his face earned him a harsh, "Daddy." Before he left the room, Ino put a hand on her belly before she sighed. She thought back to 6 days ago as she laid her head back on Naruto's chest, attempting to get a couple minutes of snooze time. Flashback 7 days ago after Suya's birth. Naruto returned to the compound with the Senju family, minus Yosuke and Himawari. As he entered the gate to the villa, he got hit with a seriously ominous wave of killing intent. He looked around and locked eyes with Inoichi Yamanaka, who was already flying through hand signs and running at him. He flipped back out of the compound and away from his family. Inoichi chased him through the gate as the Senjus watched on confused. "Damn you Senju! I will kill you for corrupting my baby girl!" Inoichi yelled as he charged. "Daddy stop!" Ino yelled on the verge of tears. Tsunade stopped her with a firm grip on her shoulder. "Kiddo, what's going on?" Ino's eyes darted to the ground, and she shifted nervously on the balls of her feet. Tsunade grabbed her chin and dragged her face up to lock eyes. Ino sighed before speaking. "I am pregnant." Tsunade dropped Ino's chin, and her world went blank. Rias and Hikari ran up and hugged Ino before dragging her away from Tsunade. They didn't want her to be around when Tsunade came back to her senses. After a couple minutes, Tsunade ran out the gate to join the fray. Ino was dragged into the living room where she began explaining things to the family. Everyone didn't really know what to say, but they knew that they would be there for the girl. Really, they all just felt sorry for Naruto. Kurama actually dispelled himself to go offer support to his partner and aid in what he knew would be an extensive healing process. An hour later, Tsunade carried a bruised, beaten and unconscious Naruto into the compound and took him straight to his room. Inoichi followed in, looking like he dropped 1,000,000 pounds from his shoulder, and he was smiling until a resounding smack echoed through the room. Ino looked into her father's eyes, her baby blues were iced over, and rage mixed with tears as her eyes tore into her father's soul. "Leave." Her voice came out at just over a whisper, but the amount of menace was overwhelming. "Ino, leave." Ino shouted this time and pointed toward the door. "Ino, you dad." Lena tried to comfort Ino. "I said fucking leave." Ino yelled, her voice cracking as she broke into tears and was caught in Temari's arms. "I think you should go," Temari said coldly as Gaara stood up and backed his sister up. Inoichi's face cracked before he turned around and slumped out of the villa. Lena cast a longing look back at Ino before she turned to go and support her husband. An awkward silence hung over the living room before Ino charged up the steps and another slap sounded through the house. A minute later, Tsunade came down with a handprint on her face and she went to the kitchen to grab a bottle of sake before she returned to the living room. "Yeah, I may have deserved that," Tsunade sighed out as she popped the top of the bottle. End of flashback. Ino sighed again, not liking the fact that she brought tension to the house. She had of course apologized to Tsunade, but she hadn't forgiven her dad yet. He should have known better than to use a mind technique on a patient with MPD. Kurama had to work all week to help Naruto heal his mind and weed out the memories that weren't real. That is what made Ino truly furious with her father. She saw Naruto crack his eyes open and she leaned up and placed a tender kiss on his lips. While everyone else's reactions were at best neutral, Naruto and Temari immediately supported her and let her know that everything was going to be alright. That's all she wanted, she just wanted to know that everything was going to be alright. How was she supposed to know that a Jinchuriki's seed was potent enough to override the anti-pregnancy jutsu? Ino coaxed Naruto into the shower and enjoyed some light petting in the shower. It was truly a good way to start the day. They got out of the shower and each of them received a kiss from Temari as she was getting ready for the wedding. They got ready before joining the family for breakfast. He smiled at the large family with the extra visitors from Konoha. The rookies were all here, even Sakura, and that made him feel at home. Shizune's beachside wedding was nice. It was a fairly simple affair since they did it on her favorite beach and all he had to do was row a couple hundred chairs. The people of Wave came out in droves to offer their support and there were quite a few from Suna and Konoha as well. Shizune and York were adored by most and loved by many. Ino and Temari kept pointing out things they liked about the wedding and things that they would change. Naruto simply nodded along and kept his attention on his big sister. Evidently, they wanted a joint wedding, also on a beachside, also with all of their friends and family, Also with each of their favorite flowers, plus a tress that locked into an infinity symbol on top, and they wanted to have Kurama and Tsunade do a joint officiation. They agreed that they didn't want to rush the wedding for the baby, so they set the date for the end of the training trip, which Ino would now be joining so that she could remain under Senju protection. Kami, girls love planning weddings. At the reception, things got interesting. Funny how alcohol tends to have that effect when the Senju family is involved. After Shizune and York's dance, Naruto cut in to have a dance with his big sister. Shizune loved dancing to country music with Naruto, and the DJ put on Barefoot Bluejan Night. The dance floor froze as Naruto began with a two-step and turned into a rowdy country swing dance. They were mesmerized by the intricate series of spins, twists, flips and dips. The dance ended with a round of applause and demands for a clone so Temari and Ino could dance with Naruto at the same time. That wasn't where things got crazy, it was when the rookies all started truly hitting the hooch. As the guests cleared out and offered their bests to the bride and groom, the Senju family migrated out to a bonfire on the beach. They were joined by the adults and a crapload of sake, beer and whiskey. Naturally, kids their age couldn't avoid truth or dare. A drunk Kiba cheered as it was finally his turn to ask his question. He hiccuped and accentuated the blush on his cheeks before smiling coyly at Naruto. Truth or dare, Naruto? Naruto looked around a bit, really not wanting to spill any secrets, and smirked before saying, dare. Kiba held up a bottle of fire whiskey. I dare you to strip and let each of the ladies take a body shot. This earned a round of cheers from the ladies and a shrug from Naruto. Naruto pulled off his burnt orange button-down shirt, spun it around his head and blanketed it over Ino's head. He then undid his belt, rode it like a cowboy stripper, and handed it to a catcalling Anko before he sensually undid his pants and laid them over Temari's shoulders. He kept his briefs on, but they did very little to hide the substantial bulge in his shorts from the blushing ladies. Tsun whistled loudly, Hinata blushed furiously, Yoshino gasped, Lena started drooling, Anko ran over and slapped his ass, Rias simply chuckled, Hikari covered her eyes, Ino pinched his butt and Temari grabbed him from behind and ran her hands up and down his very toned six-pack. Naruto grew a table out of the sand and laid down on it as Kiba began pouring shots of whiskey into his belly button. The silliest one was when Tsunade came up, blew a raspberry into Naruto's abs and then took her shot. Jiraiya fainted with a nosebleed due to jealousy and Hiruzen buried his head in his hands. Tsun took the shot, shook her ass and licked Naruto from navel to chin before placing a cheeky kiss on his lips. Thus, Kiba started stuttering and pointing. As the antics were ongoing, Tsunade approached Hiyashi with a sake-filled olive branch. She handed a shot to him and waited for him to drink before opening the conversation. Hiyashi, I wanted to talk about taking Hinata as my apprentice now. I originally said when she turned Chunin, but there was so much shit going on after the invasion that it slipped my mind. Hiyashi turned his head away from the admittedly entertaining display and locked a serious gaze on Tsunade. My clan is still struggling, Tsunade. We lost 18 people during the invasion, which was nearly 15% of my already reduced clan. Tsunade nodded and then pointed to Temari. Hiyashi, that girl is stronger at this point than most Jonin in Konoha aside from Itachi, Shisui and maybe, mind you it is a big maybe, Kakashi. She was low, A rank a year ago. Gaara is almost SS rank, and I promise you that Naruto and I are SS rank. I am not telling you to just let her take a vacation. I am saying invest in the next 2 years and let me train her. Hiyashi paused as he watched Yoshino take a body shot off the young blonde before she sauntered over to Shikaku and pulled him into a searing kiss. How will that benefit my clan? Tsunade. Tsunade cocked an eyebrow at Hiyashi. You don't want an S rank ninja under the Hyuga banner. You don't want your daughter to get a chance at a relationship with the son and most likely heir of the Cage. Oh please, Hiyashi, it is obviously the right thing to do. Hiyashi sighed. There was only truth in those words, but there was still something that was bothering Hiyashi. Why? Why do you guys keep going out of your way to help my clan? Tsunade chuckled as Temari took the body shot and then turned it into an opportunity to give an impromptu lap dance to Naruto. Well, as Naruto says, there is a lot we can't really tell you. Would you accept that we love your girls and Neji? Because that is the honest truth. Hiyashi broke decorum and dragged a hand down his face. Can you give me a clue? That reason keeps me up at night whenever I think about it. I honestly feel like we are missing so much information and all I want is a little bit of clarity. Tsunade put a hand to her chin in a thinking pose before flipping through hand seals and placing a miniature privacy barrier on her and Hiyashi. She looked at him in a deadly serious manner and spoke in an equally severe tone. I will not answer any questions after I tell you this, and I am reluctant to because this will create more questions than it answers. Are you sure you want to know? Hiyashi nodded hesitantly, so Tsunade continued. Long story short, Naruto was sent back in time after the end of the shinobi world. Your clan was one of his allies last time around. Hiyashi looked at her in deadpan. No reaction, just a frozen, stoic face. Tsunade let this go on for 30 seconds but then snapped her fingers in front of Hiyashi's face and broke his stoic facade. Hiyashi sputtered out, You can't be serious. Tsunade kept the deadly serious and slightly annoyed look on his face. Oh, but I am. Now remember, I will not be taking questions on that subject matter. Tsunade dropped the mini barrier and watched the ever-innocent Hikari take her first body shout to the catcalls of the crowd. She chuckled and shook her head. Her family was blatantly crazy and bordering on the insane. Naruto then took his turn and turned toward his old teammate. Hinata, truth or dare? Hinata blushed and stuttered. Oh, no, please be nice, Naruto. She saw Naruto's smirk. Truth. She finally said with reluctance. Naruto's mischievous smirk grew. Do you love my brother Gaara? This comment earned a low growl from a Hiyashi that was now paying rapt attention to the drinking game. Hinata's face grew redder and redder like some broken thermometer and rapidly approached atomic levels. The girl couldn't even squeak out a reply, and all she could do before she fainted was give a slight nod. This earned a round of laughter and drinks from the group before the sand on the beach suddenly became sharp and pointy for everyone. In Naruto's case, sand kunai began hovering menacingly in front of his face, which only made Naruto laugh harder as he collapsed onto the pointy sand holding his sides. Once Hinata regained consciousness, it was her turn, and her little innocent heart was now out for vengeance. Turning to Ino, who was laughing uproariously and rolling on the ground with Naruto, she found her target. Ino, truth or dare? Ino cocked an eyebrow at Hinata's vengeful tone before smirking cockily and replying, Dare. I dare you to kiss a girl of your choice. Hinata squeaked out with the last of the courage her vengeance-driven confidence gave her. Ino crawled over lioness style through the sand toward Hinata. She reached Hinata and crawled up her lap before placing a fiery kiss on Hinata's lips. This drew gasps from the crowd as the Hyuga heiress promptly fainted again. Gaara remained frozen, unsure how to feel about the most recent developments in this night of shenanigans. He honestly didn't know whether to be turned on or upset about Ino stealing a kiss from his girl's lips. Wait, his girl's? Yes, your girl is right, Gaara. Shukaku added his 2 cents while Karura nodded furiously within the mindscape. Hiyashi's growl deepened and Sume forcibly restrained him with Inoichi, Shikaku and Chusa helping out. Sume actually made the stoic Hiyashi Hyuga blush when she turned him and placed a kiss on his lips. This was out of left field and the two would admit that it felt absolutely awful, but it made everyone laugh. The night of debauchery continued, and luckily it would only be remembered by few. Unluckily, Ino was sober due to her health condition, and she took great joy in reminding everyone of the night's events throughout the rest of their stay in Wave. New and improved flames of youth. The week after the wedding was like a rowdy party at the Senju Villa. Despite the fact that the Leaf Shinobi had their own rooms at the Senju Hotel, most nights left bodies sprawled on the porch, in the training grounds, in the garden, or in Kiba's case, in the bathroom. It was after one such night that Naruto stirred in his king bed to place a soft kiss on Temari's lips before shifting under the covers and placing a kiss on Ino's belly. It was just starting to bulge with life and Naruto could feel it intimately thanks to his connection to nature. However, Naruto was feeling devious this morning and he didn't stop with a reverent kiss to the baby bump. His fingers peeled away his only obstruction with minimal resistance from the sleeping form of Ino. She grumbled softly and shuffled over to Temari's wharf. Naruto kept his hands on her lower body and waited for her to get comfy before he opened the luscious, wet pink folds of Ino's labia and took his first taste of the morning. The first couple licks were soft and earned a pleasant little moan as the sensations fused with Ino's dream. Soft and tender licks turned into a feast of supple flesh and fluid as Naruto began sucking, nibbling and licking Ino's clitoris. Her moans picked up and her grip on Temari tightened as both blondes began stirring from their comfortable slumber. Since Naruto felt Ino stirring, he slipped 2 fingers covered in a lubricative water chakra that began tending to the G spot that housed itself in Ino's womanly depths. As his fingers found purchase and earned more moans, Naruto reapplied a combination of his tongue and teeth. It didn't take long for Ino's moans to reverberate off the walls of the room briefly before a feminine roar escaped her throat and her body shuddered in a blissful orgasm. Before Naruto could continue, 2 hands each grabbed locks of his hair and the blonde duo of Kunoichi pulled Naruto into a set of searing kisses. Each girl smirked into the kiss as the taste of Ino's juices registered. After the set of kisses, Temari said 4 words before pushing Naruto's head back down under the covers, "Get me a clone." After pleasing his girls and thanking Kami for privacy seals, Naruto enjoyed the early morning sun peeking through the window as he cuddled with his girls. The feel of their bare breasts resting in rhythmic up and down motions on his toned chest was a feeling he would never get used to and he would surely never take it for granted. "I love you girls," he whispered softly. Ino smiled as the haze of multiple orgasms cleared out of her mind. "I love you too, Ruto. What are we doing today?" Temari scoffed. "We Mr. Tall, blonde and drunk Bentley last night. So, we all got roped into a morning CrossFit session and then the 2 muscleheads are going to spar. Oh, that is going to be good. Lee can now use his chakra, right?" Ino said excitedly as she let her hands roam on Naruto's toned chest. Naruto groaned at the thought. "Yeah, I guess I didn't think about that last night. This is going to be troublesome." Ino slapped Naruto's chest. "No. Bad Ruto. You are not letting the lazy Nara corrupt you." Naruto and Temari giggled before Naruto looked at the clock and saw they had 20 minutes before the start of training, round 2. Half an hour later, Naruto let Guy lead the group through a CrossFit session. Guy wanted to show out a new workout he had developed, and it was a monster. Thus, by the end of the 30-minute workout, everyone was collapsed on the sidelines catching their breath. Lee and Naruto were both shirtless in the middle of the training field while Guy-sensei was going through his usual rant of youthfulness. Rias was seated and leaned up against a pear tree and holding Anko in between her legs and she let her hands rest on Anko's baby belly. "You know, if that knucklehead has access to his chakra now then this could get pretty out of hand pretty quickly. No shit, we should tell the Gaki to put up a barrier." Anko shot back sarcastically. Hikari heard the two as she was handing out lemonade to those that were recovering from the ridiculousness of a workout led by Might Guy. "I will do that. I want to practice more," she said cheerfully. "Thanks, Lil, sis, I appreciate it." Anko sang out as she leaned further into Ria's embrace. The Konoha group watched the teenage blonde saunter out in front of the group before she casually grabbed some kunai. Chakra imprinted the seal on them and tossed the kunai around the corners of the training ground. Seconds later, a barrier that was 50 by 50 flared to life. "Good job Hikari." Tsunade cheered the girl she essentially considered a daughter. "Thanks mama." Hikari replied cheerfully before she went and sat next to York, Shizune, Tsunami and Kaisa. Tsunade shook her head as she reclined in a chair on the porch next to Kurama. "So, Q, think the flames of youth stand a chance?" Kurama chuckled. "You know, Suheim, I think that the brat will put up a good fight against our boy. He agreed to only taijutsu and reinforcement and I know he won't use sage mode." That thought made Tsunade think about the fitness nut using the inner gates, which made her stand up ramrod straight and yell, "Lee, if you activate the gates in my backyard, I will test the mountain breaker jutsu on your backside." Lee, who was jumping around excitedly, swiveled toward Tsunade, clasped his feet together in the position of military attention, and bowed deeply. "Yes, Lady Tsunade." Kurama chuckled and pulled Tsunade onto his lap, which made the beautiful blonde blush furiously. "Relax, Haim. Ruto will keep things within reason." Tsunade scoffed. "Within reason? Didn't you watch our battles in the desert?" Kurama smiled and nodded. "And you call that reason?" Kurama belted out a laugh. "Well, to be fair, you were in a desert, and you told him to cut loose. To be even more fair, both of you can heal from anything that isn't fatal." Tsunade hmphed and pulled Kurama's arms around her waist as she watched the start of the fight. "So, Did Hiyashi agree to let the girl join us? Tsunade smiled and kissed the top of Kyu's hand that was cradling her abdomen. Yes, Hiyashi said Naruto can flash to Konoha and grab supplies for her and then she will join us. However, he reserves the right to call her back if she is needed for clan business. Kurama scoffed at the last bit. Oh, please. What is so important that the high and mighty Hyuga would need to call back a teenage girl? Tsunade sighed. Well, their clan has had it rough this go around Q. Not to mention that Hinata has actually stepped up and helped Hiyashi with clan affairs. Kurama kissed the side of Tsunade's cheek. Point taken. I guess you can be right once in a blue moon. Tsunade sent a firm elbow into Kurama's abs, which didn't even make him flinch. Look here, almighty demon lord, I am right 99.9% of the time. Kurama belted out a laugh before licking Tsunade's ear and whispering, and you lose 99.9% of the money you gamble. On the other side of the field, Makoto and Shisui were watching the high-speed fight with Sharingan activated. Lee was roughly 3 times faster than before his operation, which made him among the top 5 fastest people in Konoha now. It was an extremely impressive display of speed and taijutsu prowess. Each flash gave glimpses of blocks, parries and counters in a beautiful dance of death. Shisui whistled. Lady Makoto, were the kids during the Great Wars ever at this level? Makoto cast a sidelong glance at Shisui before returning her attention to the fight. No, Shisui, this is exceptional. I don't think genin have ever wore weight and resistance seals though. Everyone feared the ramifications on their natural growth and chakra networks. Not to mention, Konoha hasn't had a seal master that was willing to apply them since Lady Mito. Shisui smiled as he watched Naruto block a leaf whirlwind and counter with a right uppercut which set Lee hurtling into the air. Yeah, kinda seems like a waste. Like, in Anbu, we got a lesser version of those seals during Hell Week. Makoto winced as Lee's body careened into the ground in a massive crater after an aerial combo attack from Naruto. She shook her head with an amused smile as Lee hopped right back onto his feet and launched toward a descending Naruto. Well, to be fair, Tsunade and Shizune have supervised the whole process. I wouldn't be surprised if they become a standard for academy graduates. That's a scary thought. In my generation, we hand a handful of A-ranked shinobi and a scant few S-ranks. This generation will all eventually reach S-rank at this rate. Yosh. Well done, Lee. Guy's shout pierced through the barrier and made everyone wince. Lee had managed to land another solid hit on Naruto during his descent. Holy crap, can you guys even see them? Kiba said amongst a group of the rookies. Neji frowned as it was taking all of his concentration to keep up with the fight. It is difficult. I am proud of my eyes, but I have noticed that as we get faster, it gets significantly harder for me to keep up with the processing. 10-10 slugged Neji in the shoulder. Ah, come on. Don't be so serious. You are just as fast as Lee. Neji watched on as Lee managed to land a jab, straight, hook combo on Naruto who was sent flying backward. He gave an impressed nod as Naruto did a series of twists and back handsprings to right himself. No, that is no longer the case. Lee has taken very well to using reinforcement jutsu and I begrudgingly admit that he is faster than me. Choji put a comforting hand on Neji's shoulder as he tilted the bag of trail mix up and gobbled down the last of it. There is more to fighting that speed. Shikamaru had given up on trying to watch the fight and he was enjoying. His favorite pastime is the group talked above him. Don't be troublesome. We are all stronger than we ought to be. That troublesome blonde actually got me. Now, the least lazy Nara in history, mind you, to do daily workouts. He is so kami damned troublesome. It is as if Naruto wishes to prepare us for a future battle. Given the invasion and current state of the elemental nations, I would say he has done us a favor. Shino said monotonously as his shades stayed fixed on the fight. Yes. Ino cheered as Naruto landed a straight kick that sent Lee flying into the barrier 20 feet above the group. You know guys, he is preparing us because he cares so much about every one of you that he can't stand the idea of losing you. Him preparing you and dragging you through the workouts is his way of showing he cares. Tamari smiled beneficently at her victorious fiancé. What she said. Naruto walked over to Lee who was still recovering from his impromptu collision with the barrier. He offered a hand up to Lee, who took it and was pulled unsteadily to his feet. Great fight, Lee. You have gotten much faster and stronger. Lee looked downcast. During the whole 8-minute fight, Lee had only landed 3 solid blows on Naruto. My youthful friend, despite having access to my flames of youth, I barely managed to touch you. Guy came over and slapped Lee on the back. Lee. Don't be so unyouthful. Naruto is among the strongest of shinobi in the elemental nations. For you to land 3 decisive blows on him is most impressive. Naruto looked abashed while fire returned to Lee's eyes. Naruto saw the embrace coming and promptly begged Hikari to lower the barrier to escape the accursed genjutsu. This earned laughs from the onlookers before those that didn't know better were scarred for life. Naruto took this chance to grab Shino and take him to the Senju Gardens. He unsealed 2 jars that had an impressive array of fuinjutsu on them and opened the conversation with Shino. So, I tried naming them in this world and it didn't work. That being said, I think you will like the results. Naruto said cheerfully. Shino pushed up his glasses and inspected the jars. Which one should I open first? Naruto smiled like he did something great. I recommend the green jar. Those were the bugs that fed off of my senjutsu chakra for the past year. I have been able to communicate in a rudimentary manner with the queen, her name is Chiketa. Shino cocked his head to the side. I thought you said there were no effects when you named them. Naruto shrugged. Bring her out and she can explain it herself. She said she wanted to talk to you before her hive agreed to work with you. The way the jars work, those are dimension seals. I grew a habitat in each jar according to your habitat recommendations that we agreed to test. I have repeatedly topped of the senjutsu chakra in that jar. To bring her out, she requests a 1-minute warning. The seal on top of the lid is the warning seal. Just pulse some chakra into that to let her know you wish to speak with her. Shino did as instructed. Naruto continued, okay, so after a minute, you can open the lid to the jar. Be careful, because if you open it prematurely then the hive could go wild. Shino waited the minute and then opened the lid of the jar. He watched as a green football-sized beetle with hand-sized pincers and 6 legs that ended in 2 digits puffed into existence. The beetle instinctively flew over to Naruto and landed on his hand. Naruto smiled at the beetle and set into a meditative posture within the garden. Shino took a seat and waited patiently as Naruto spoke to the beetle. After a minute, Naruto held out his hand and Shino raised his hand to meet Naruto's. The beetle clicked her tusks while looking at Naruto before walking over to Shino's hand. Naruto waited with a smile as Shino communicated with the giant green beetle before the beetle walked back into the jar and disappeared in a puff of smoke. Shino looked up to Naruto expectantly, who just gave him a wry smile in return. Finally, the usually stoic Shino spoke excitedly. Spill it, Naruto. That is the biggest queen beetle I have ever seen. She also seemed fairly reluctant to come back to our compound. Naruto continued to smirk. Well, their carapaces have absorbed nature energy and reinforced their bodies. Those pincers are really, and I mean really, mean. Just one beetle can rip through a bandit. They fly faster than anything I have seen, like mid to high Jonin speeds. They also have the ability to heal. I was sad about that after the Biju beetle, but it makes them amazing allies. Shino was nodding along and trying to maintain his composure. His 3 hives were jittering excitedly. Okay, so I need to carry this jar on me to use them in the field. Yup, but I recommend you let them out daily and bond with them. Especially Chiketa, she is pretty high maintenance. The jar should contain enough natural energy to hold them over. Do you have an available space on the compound for them? They will need 20 square meters for their hive. Shino thought about it before nodding. Yes, I am sure my clan will be more than happy to make room for them. Cool, cool. How is Apita? Naruto asked, ready to change topics. Naruto, did you know what was supposed to happen when you named a bee creature in the other world? Shino asked as if he was truly perplexed. Nope. Naruto answered innocently. Rimuru said that when he names creatures it makes them a bit more human, but Apita is the only one I have named. Naruto, Apita is a 4-foot-tall bee girl. That is the only way I know how to explain it. She can communicate freely, use jutsu and she spends most of her time in the Forest of Death. Shino explained. Naruto fell backward in surprise before he righted himself. No shit. No shit. Now, what about the next jar? Shino asked excitedly. Naruto held up a hand and pulled out a scroll. He handed the scroll to Shino before explaining, alright, Shino, this is my advance Hiraishin relay. I still can't flash long distances to my kunai, but this beacon seal will allow me to flash back to Konoha. I trust your clan to keep my trust. Between this and the communication scrolls, one will be able to help with Cicada and her hive. Shino stood up and bowed deeply to Naruto. We are most grateful for your assistance with our clan research. Naruto waved him off. Relax, Shino. This has been a really fun experiment and Kurama is actually interested in it too. Very well, I simply wish for you to know that you have my gratitude. Now, what about the other jar? Naruto smirked and sent a pulse of chakra into the jar. A minute later, a red and black beetle the size of a mountain lion appeared in a puff of chakra smoke. It began clicking its pincers while talking excitedly to Naruto. Naruto flashed into a chakra cloak and the beetle climbed on his back, and within 10 seconds the chakra cloak fizzled out of existence. Shino watched the display, completely dumbstruck. Shino, this is Bull. Unfortunately, Bull insists on staying with me. He is actually the alpha male of the new demon beetle tribe, which is sealed into this jar. He said he is willing to work with the Aburame clan, but these beetles are carnivores and yokai eaters. Thus, he and his tribe can only serve Jinchuriki. Shino began pouting, but Bull started clicking its pincers at Naruto again. Naruto was nodding along to Bull, and he smiled a gigawatt smile after a while. Shino watched on curiously while he was pouting, barely being able to understand the language the beetle was speaking in. Bull then walked over and began inspecting Shino. Shino stood up to let the beetle get a better feel for him. Hey Shino, he said he wants to speak with your queens. Can they come out? Naruto informed Shino, who immediately complied. Shino watched on curiously, listening in on the conversation with his hive queens. Naruto, what is going on? Well, I think Bull wants to get in some combat. He is seeing if you are worthy of being his brethren's summoner. Naruto let Shino know. How many are there like Bull? Shino asked. I think he is up to 150 or so. This jar has an ability to infuse my yokai into it, and I throw in a deer, bear or whatever meat source every other day or so. That really is the main reason why he doesn't want to leave my side. Kami, Naruto, this is unreal. My clan is going to flip. We have always been on the lookout for insect summoning contracts, but they are exceedingly rare. Shino said in an unusual display of emotion. Yeah, I kind of figured, which is why I wanted to make this offer to you guys. At that point, Bull walked back up to Naruto and began speaking in clicks. Naruto nodded and unsealed a master scroll before he set to work on the contract. It took nearly 30 minutes for Naruto to finish the contract while working in Bull's needs and Shino's requests. Once complete, Naruto had both of them add their chakra and made the contract official. Once complete, Shino walked off with Bull to go and bond. Thank you for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and I'll catch you in the next part.